Clicking live with the squeaky flow. I'll knock you down like a domino. Tick-tock, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone's watching from all over the world. Your friendly neighborhood philosopher here, D. Wood. With me now, we've got AP doing his best Mike Winger impression with those glasses. You think that's going to throw me off, man? You think that's going to be a distraction to me? I'm going to be like, is this Mike Winger I'm with? Look at those freaking nerd glasses. Think it's going to be that?
I know. I was thinking this might be an opportunity to put out a very, very a wonderful and sophisticated and pleasant experience for everyone out there. Something like a high-ranking documentary, as it were. But that is what I'm here for.
Hey, it's funny. That's actually been scientifically confirmed.
What?
They've done experiments where they show pictures of people to people, and then they ask the people to rate that person's intelligence based on the way they look. And they noticed consistently people with glasses are rated higher in intelligence. People just think if you're wearing glasses, you're smarter and more intellectual. Isn't that weird?
I know that is a thing. If I see somebody without glasses and they suddenly put glasses on, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, you actually look smart.
Whoa. Yes. Yeah. Now you're intelligent. You're very intelligent.
You looked like an idiot just a few minutes ago. What happened?
That should be a video. People are just dismissing what some guy sounds like, and all of a sudden he puts on glasses, and everyone's like, actually, maybe this is a good point.
I never thought about it like that.
All right, everyone. So today we are going to, there's a million things going on, but we wanted to take a look at this Jordan Peterson interview. It's about 2.5 hours long. I listened to most of it. But what's interesting, it was on a completely different topic. It's about like relationships, like marriages and, how these relationships tie into society and so on. And it's all kinds of things. But a couple of times during the discussion, they started talking about God. And there's one point in which the interviewer, which is Diary of a CEO. I don't know what his actual name is. His channel is Diary of a CEO. Big channel. What's that?
I thought you were going to say something with diarrhea. But...
No, it's Diarrhea of a CEO. When Elon Musk gets sick,
diarrhea.
He looks in his toilet and says, "What's that?" And he says, "It's the diarrhea of a CEO." So the channel is Diary of a CEO. Huge channel. Not sure why I'm not familiar with. I guess because he focuses more on like business stuff, but he interviews cool people. But has over 9 million subscribers. So huge channel. Good interviewer, asks lots of questions, and then sits there and listens. So, anyway, good. Seems like a good channel. This is the first time I've seen him. But he interviewed Jordan Peterson, and he's asking all kinds of questions about relation. And a lot of this is like personal. Like he's asking Jordan Peterson questions about like his own relationships and his own relationship in life and so on, and asking about depression, all sorts of things. And so interesting discussion, but there were a couple of times when they ended up talking about God, and eventually the guy asks him, what do you mean by God? What do you mean by God? And Jordan Peterson starts answering, and then he goes, wait, you mean Jesus is God? And Jordan Peterson goes, yeah. And so that little clip, I saw that circulating on a bunch of Christian apologetics channels and so on. But Jordan Peterson explains what he means after that. And as usual, Jordan Peterson will say something, but he actually means something, I don't even know how to describe it, like psychological kind of. But anyway, we're gonna take a look at the context here. That's towards the end. That's at it's like 2.5 hours. That's getting close to the 2 hour mark where they had that bit of the discussion. But there were points throughout where they're talking about these issues. And so we're going to look at a couple of examples of when they were talking about things earlier, and then we'll look at Jordan's explanation for why he now calls Jesus God. This is, by the way, this is interesting because when was this? Was it his discussion with Alex O'Connor? I think it was his discussion with Alex O'Connor where Alex kept kind of pressing him saying, do you believe this? Do you believe this stuff really happened? Do you believe these things really happened? And Jordan,
What do you mean?
I don't know. What do you mean by happen? What do you mean by did and stuff like that? We're like, could you just answer the freaking question, man? To his credit, Alex just kept pushing him on it in like 20 different ways. And finally, Alex goes, okay, if you had a time machine and you went back in time and you put a camera right outside Jesus' tomb, is he walking out? Would that camera pick him up walking out of that tomb? That's what we're all asking. And Jordan Peterson goes, yeah, I think so. And we were all finally we got an answer. And then and then Alex is like, well, why don't you just say that when we ask you the question? He goes, because I don't know what it means. And then he starts going on how he doesn't know what all these religious claims mean and so on. So there's this interesting hesitancy of
but credit to Alex O'Connor there. He's like, so many people had this conversation with Jordan Peterson before him. But you always expect the interviewer to actually sit down and confront him and ask the real question. Alex knew how to ask the question properly and to get an answer out of him. Later on, Jordan Peterson, as he is, still kind of messed it up again, just a few seconds later after he gave the answer. But credit to Alex O'Connor there. He was the final boss that Jordan Peterson faced, who actually asked him the tough question, the real question, the direct question to which he gave an answer. By the way, shame on you for not knowing who Diary of a CEO is. This is Stephen Bartlett, man. You don't know Stephen Bartlett?
Nope.
He's an influential investor and business guy known for founding Social Chain. You don't know Social Chain?
Nope.
You don't know Dragon's Den? He was on Dragon's Den.
I know zero.
I don't know any of this either. I'm just looking this up on Wikipedia.
Okay, look it up. Yeah. Okay. But that's funny because that's exactly what people will be saying in the comments later. What? How could you not? Are you stupid? He did my favorite thing, dragon, such and such. Yeah. I don't watch a lot of people's stuff. I find people that I like, and then I watch their stuff, and I don't see most other things that go on the internet, everybody. But yeah, so it's just this weird thing that you'll have, again, someone like Alex O'Connor, and he'll spend almost an entire interview getting Jordan Peterson to just acknowledge this one thing, like actually tell us what you think on this issue, because you seem to jump around and start asking for definitions of various things and so on, when like it's almost like you either believe that he actually walked out of the tomb, or you believe that he didn't actually walk out of the tomb, or you just don't know. You're like agnostic. It's like something we could understand. You have a position that we could understand about this, and you won't give it. You just don't give it. You start asking for definitions and so on, when we really want to know what your actual position would be. And then Jordan Peterson will give his actual position that we've all been waiting for. Yes, if you had a camera in front of the tomb that Jesus was in and you kept recording, you would see him walk out of there. And then finally we have an answer. And then, what, I don't know what it means. I don't know what resurrection means. I don't know what, right. You don't have to. Just for future reference, everyone. If I ask you a question like that, hey, Jesus, his body was laid in a tomb. If a camera was there, would you see him walking out? If you say yes, it's fine if you don't understand how it works, but that's the main question I would be asking in that situation. Do you believe is this actually something that happened? It's an important question. Whether you understand how it works or anything else, not what's being asked at that point. Once you grant that's what happened, then of course you can always ask what you mean by that. But anyway, the point of all that is you get something similar here, where he admits that Jesus is God, and then he finally, now we got his position. And then he goes on to explain it, and you're like, wait, what? What's going on here? So we're going to take a look at this. And I kind of get glimpses where I sort of understand what he's saying on some of this stuff. I think I'm going to have to read his book. I grabbed his book. I haven't read it yet. It's We Who Wrestle with God. Where'd it go?
You mean wrestle?
It's wrestle.
Powerful.
If it's West Virginia, you wrestle. Everyone understand that? So anyway, but anyway, I'm guessing that I'm going to have to go through his book to see some chapters on some of this stuff. Oh, one more thing, because I mentioned they're talking about relationship. They also talk in that interview. For those of you who might want to watch it, the link's in the description box. But they also talk about he takes. What'd you say the guy's name was?
Stephen Bartlett.
Stephen. Call him Stephen. He also takes Stephen through the Sermon on the Mount. He takes him through the story of Abraham and so on. So they're actually having some interesting discussions and so on. And Stephen says he was basically grew up sort of like a nominal Christian or something like that. When he turned 18, he got really into the Richard Dawkins stuff and became a committed atheist. He said, I think that lasted around 2 years, he said, and then he became more of an agnostic. So that's basically where he's at, and that's who Jordan is talking to. Let's take these first couple of super chats, and then we'll jump into the first clip. Have three main clips. They're all several minutes long. Thank God I was starting to think Winger had got to y'all before the stream could start. 7 minutes late. Tighten it up. God bless y'all. Yeah, that was AP looking for his glasses. He can't see without his glasses. But on the topic of Mike Winger, I mean, come on. He is the worst person in the world, but the idea that he could actually do anything if he got to us is just silly. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, David, look at that evil slug over there. It's going to really do something. An evil slug might be evil, but it's not capable of really.
Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah. I buy your Yahweh. I guess he finally found what is. That's funny. I was thinking, little side note, AP. He says all sorts of funny things in there. He talks about Andrew Tate.
He does.
Yeah, he gives a really good. He gives us. It's short. It's a short little section, but he says this is the fascination with Andrew Tate, and they're talking about like getting out and doing stuff and taking risks and so on. He says it's basically young guys would prefer a reprobate who's out there doing something than a good person who's doing nothing. And he's saying that's the draw to him. I saw a better one. I forget who it was from in a tweet recently, and he said that the draw, and I'm thinking of this because on PBD podcast, people, when someone out there is on PBD podcast and he inevitably starts, well, what about Andrew Tate? Oh, I know we're talking about global warming, but what about Andrew Tate? Blah, blah, blah. Right? People got to give him the answers. But someone the other day tweeted that Andrew Tate is not drawing people because he's showing them how to be masculine. He's giving you a shortcut, easy way to portray yourself as masculine, right? Because historically, you think of like masculine, you think of like someone he's going to get the woman, he's going to then start a family, he's going to be a great protector of his family, he's going to provide for his family, he's going to destroy everything that tries to come at his family and so on. That's masculine. You look at Andrew Tate and it's all like, look at me and my millions, I've got all these women and they do everything I say and blah, 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 blah. It's completely screwed up and dysfunctional, and now he's going to be spending years in prison.
It's like doing drugs.
Yeah.
It's like instead of finding a proper way to live, just go doing drugs and saying, well, look at this. Look at this. It's giving me all I need. It makes me feel amazing.
Yeah. In fact, they have a long discussion about that. And I'm saying it's a good interview. They discuss a bunch of topics, and it was all important stuff. But along those lines, they talk about pornography. In the discussion, that it's this shortcut, right? You can have this, go out and find a woman, then you have to figure out how to have a discussion with her, and then figure out how to get her interested in you, and then dating, and then marriage and all that stuff. Or you can click on a website, takes 2 seconds to start whacking off.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Everything is shortcut, and that's something that's going on in our society as we are just, as time goes on, we are losing any sort of concept of delayed gratification. We want everything right now. It's got to be quick and it's got to be easy. And that's what Andrew Tate takes advantage of in people.
It's funny that you're talking about this and also bringing that up, which is quite interesting, considering that Andrew Tate himself was also the guy who specifically engaged in mass porn production.
Isn't that tie interesting?
and sold pornography to people, and
Wait, wait,
also engaged in helping men who are at home watching those women get off by telling them exactly how to do it and what to do, and act and pretending that he's a woman, and so on.
So what is Andrew Tate? Because you just described multiple different ways that he's doing the exact same thing, right? He does it with the women, he does it with the men, and then he does it with his fans, right?
Yes.
Every single thing he's doing is, hey, here's something that as a human being, you want these things. There's the long path to get these things that is like lasting and is meaningful and so on. And then there's the short-term instant gratification thing that I can get you addicted to. I can get you addicted to the short-term thing. And I'm just going to offer you the easy road for everything. And then people say, yeah, give us that. And then, oh, he's the top G. He's the top G.
That's what they do.
Yeah. So, and by the way, he acknowledged before that he was selling drugs.
Yes.
So before the porn, he was selling drugs. What is he doing? He's the same thing. This guy has spent his entire life giving people the quick and easy road. That's not real masculinity, guys. That taking the quick, easy path to everything you want is not the real masculine way of going about things. As Jordan Peterson was saying, you got dragons to slay. That's how you become a man.
I'm a dragon slayer.
Imagine this. So I guess the parallel would be, you're supposed to go out and slay the dragon. If Tate were there, he'd have you put on a virtual reality headset where you go up and stab a dragon while jerking off and so on. You see, I'm the top G. I give people what they want. It's like, come on, dude, shut up. But yeah, so this is fun. This is funny that Jordan Peterson. Oh man, dude, I got to do it. How have I not done this, man? So Jace here is just pointing out, he's drawing attention to the Jordan Peterson clip where I don't buy your Allah. I got to put that together. I don't buy your Allah together with, yeah, Jesus is God. That's got to be awesome, right?
You should put it.
Oh, I will, buddy.
Good compilation.
AP, good job. Your reaction on hijab was cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's so weird. I didn't even watch the hijab video, but I looked at the comments, and of course, all the top comments are, be careful, hijab. Elon is very dangerous when he's coming after you, and when he's using his billions of dollars to come after you. It's like, you idiots actually buy this, guys. The reason hijab would do something like that, the reason Sheikh Uthman would fake a hate crime against himself, knowing that the rest of us are going to be like, come on, man, are you an idiot? Come on, you think we're going to fall for this? They know their fans are stupid enough to fall for it. So, hey, fans of hijab out there, quit being stupid. You're the reason they do this stupid stuff. So anyway, I didn't even watch the video, but looking at the reactions, all the top comments are, oh my goodness, you're in danger. And then if you scroll through, then it's come on, dude, are you serious? You think we're going to fall for this? You think we're morons?
He's an idiot. He is such an idiot. But yeah, I made a very quick response to it, and that was good. Apparently, that's what people want to see. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, what have I been saying for years about a narcissist? How do you handle a narcissist? How do you deal with a narcissist? You feed a narcissist at first. You give him attention. Here's what you do. If you want to watch a narcissist absolutely implode, give him attention, 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 and then don't give him attention and watch him get attention. Oh, Elon Musk is coming after. Or, oh, I've been stabbed by the kuffar. They all do this. A narcissist will do this. He will completely embarrass himself trying to get that attention back. Ein Berliner mit Berliner says, Jesus is God. What do you mean by Jesus? What do you mean by is? What do you mean by God? No idea why AP wearing glasses, but it looks thumbs up. Nice. It's actually kind of stupid because these are reading glasses that are the magnification is set to looking at something up close and making it bigger and easier to read. So when I'm looking at my screen here, it actually doesn't help at all. It looks blurry and also hurts my eyes. But I'm just wearing it anyway because it kind of looks cool. It's worth it. Plus, yeah. you look and sound more intelligent now. Yeah, because normally you sound completely dumb, and now you sound smart for some reason. It's got to be the glasses, because it can't be what you're saying. Choose Life says, Shabbat Shalom, AP. Shabbat Shalom.
Mustard says, we accept the Bible is written by fellow humans. Can humans not be wrong, lie, deceive? We like to call Islam out for being liars. Can the same not have happened to Christianity? Were you there when Jesus was on the cross? This serious stuff, or is this joking?
I was there.
Yeah. Hey, Mustard. Yeah. You can think about how sloppy this is. Say, oh, this group over here made something up, or this person over. So Muhammad made up something. I'm not even sure he's making up his idea that he got revelations. He may have actually believed that he got revelations, and he may actually be insane. Well, therefore, this is the sloppy and stupid thinking. Well, since this guy may have made something up, therefore, why not conclude that everyone's making everything up about everything? Because that would be a horribly, horribly stupid move. It's like, hey, one guy has lied to me. Why not always assume that everyone is lying to me in everything they say? Well, that wouldn't work, and that would be insanely stupid. It's like you wouldn't want to say, oh, this guy told me the truth one time, therefore let me always assume everyone is telling the truth. What do? You discern, you examine, you look for confirming evidence. You look at testimony. You say, is this the sort of person I should trust? I look at Muhammad and I think, I do not trust this guy at all. I look at the Apostle Paul and say, this is a guy I trust a lot, especially when we have a bunch of witnesses. It's not like Islam where you got one witness of what happens in that cave when Dihya al-Kalbi came in there for a little action. It's not like that where we got one witness plus Dihya. You have a bunch of witnesses who are saying things. And it's all kinds of people. You have original followers. You have men. You have women. You have friends and foes. You have his original followers who believed in him. You have people like Paul and James who didn't believe in him. They came to believe in him after they believed that he had appeared to them and so on. So apples and oranges, sport. What do you mean by walk? What do you mean by out? By of? By the tomb. What's funny is we're reading this. It sounds funny. That's exactly what he sounds like. What do you mean by is? What do you mean by a? And then he's Canadian, so it'll be like, what do you mean by a? AP looking down on us with his glasses, inshallah. Oh, you should start doing it like a job when you talk to people. Put on glasses and then, now if you listen to me, what is your dad been doing? What has your dad done? Hillbilly, redneck. Hillbilly redneck. What has your dad done? He didn't start a fake degree company like my dad did that I work for.
What are your accolades? What did your dad do?
What did your dad do? For anyone who's new here, if you don't know what we're talking about, these are actual things that our good friend Hijab.
What did your mom do? What did your mom do?
Yeah, he's. Let's just say we're all quite delighted that he is the hero of the Ummah because he's destroying it. He is making all the future enemies. He is ensuring that the future of Dawah is completely in the hands of narcissists because you got all these guys, Hijab and Ali Dawah and Sheikh Uthman. They're all narcissists. They're all like horrible people, but they're the ones setting the pattern for what a successful Dawahgandist is now. So all the young guys who are coming up, who do you want to act like? Do you want to act calm like this Sajid guy? Do you want to do all this historical research like this Shabir Ali guy? Or do you want to walk around probably go, oh, me stronger than you, everyone weak, me strong. Oh no, the kuffar, they're coming at me, the kuffar. Elon Musk is obsessed with me, spending billions of dollars to come and get me. Oh no, I've been stabbed by the kuffar. What do you want to be like? You want to be like that. You want to be like the idiots who will do anything for attention. Well, great. Who's going to be the future champions of Dawah? Absolute attention freaks. That's all they care about, getting attention.
I imagine it was like this. Like I put this on, like, well, I do not believe for a second that Islam is actually a true. Well, wallahi, Allah is it's the best, man. Muhammad is the best prophet. It's so amazing. It is a bunch of garbage.
Oh boy. AP looking down on us with his glasses, inshallah. Yep, that is awesome. Is AP Christian now? Also, Jesus is God.
That's an interesting question.
That is
Edgar, Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Edgar. Gwyneth says, regarding Jordan B. Peterson and slaying dragons, I unalived a rat that was in my barn on my farm. It wasn't quite a dragon, but it felt primal and good. Oh, that's along the same lines I was talking about, like masculinity and stuff. This is when we first got married. So you're talking like first year or something like that. A rat got into our house because there was like a I don't know how it got there, but there's like a crack. There was like they ended up with a crack that something could crawl through. Anyway, there's this rat. You could tell it was crawling around in the house. So anyway, I set a glue trap for it. It got stuck to the glue trap. But just at like its back legs and tail. So it's still running around, but it's partly attached to a glue trap. And this thing was huge. This thing was like huge like this, and then had like a foot long tail and stuff. And so I had this thing cornered, and I yelled for my wife. I said, "Hey, come down here." And I'm standing there with a baseball bat in my boxers. I'm standing there with a baseball bat in my boxers when she walks in. And she walks in and climbs right up on the table. She gets up on the table, and I'm standing there with a baseball bat. And I go, "Look at what your husband is protecting you from." And Then I whacked this rat with a bat, right? I thought it was going to be dead just from one. I whacked it. No, it charged me. It freaking charged me, this rat. And then I whacked it again. Whack! This thing did not. I'm a big dude, and I smashed this thing with a bat. It didn't die. Finally, I put the end of the bat on it, and I just like put all my weight on it and crushed it. But yeah. So the point there of all that, Ginneth, was exactly that was like slaying a dragon. It was just a big nasty rat, but. You got the girl over here standing up on the table. You're standing there in your underwear with a baseball bat, protecting someone from a horrible rat. Yep. Anyone could do that though, because I mean, she would have done it if she had to. But
powerful.
Point is, we got to slay the dragons.
That's how I feel when I kill a fly.
Oh, wait. No, I thought we were done with Super Chats. We're about to start the video, but a couple more came in. Let's do these real quick. Modern Day Debate link is up. Wish me luck, boys. Oh, yeah. When was that? Was that? 1 second. So, guys, this is Apollos. I just want to, just for anyone who wants to watch it, Modern Day Debate. I just wanted to see when that was. They already told us about it. Modern Day Debate. Live. Where is it? Where is it? Dang it. Is Muhammad in the Bible? PhD, you see. Hang on. Let me type in Apollos here. Apollos. Oh, here we go. Nope, I can't find it. All right. I'm going to have to check that out later. And let's see. Samuel says, crazy you got Leon Trotsky on your stream. Yeah, it is. But
I found it literally just searching for it very quickly. I searched Modern Day Debate and found it right there.
Oh, really? I saw like 1,000 came up when I couldn't look through them all.
Yeah, I'm going to send it to you in the chat.
Just tell me what it is, man. Tell us when the debate is.
It's January 25th.
Okay, January 25th, ladies and gentlemen. What's the topic?
Atheism or Christianity, which one is true?
There you go. The 25th. Check that out. There's nothing stupid about learning from experience. If people in one religion lie about their testimony, it is the intelligent thing to do to question the next religious testimony.
We don't do questions.
Yeah, this is called hasty generalization, and it's stupid, and it's in the e-book of logic. Oh, look here. Therefore, all this stuff that's stupid, and we're not talking about. And what did you say? If people in one religion lie about their testimony, it is the intelligent thing to do to question. We're not talking about questioning. Of course, you can question. I already explained to you the difference between someone like Muhammad and someone like Paul and all the others. It's a completely different situation. So why would you say, here's some one guy who comes out and says, I got a revelation in this cave, And then you look at the Revelations and it's all this insane, idiotic nonsense. It does nothing but benefit him, and say, therefore, the Apostle Paul is like that. What'd Paul get out of becoming an apostle? He got repeatedly tortured, beaten, shipwrecked, and ultimately executed. Doesn't seem like he was in it for stuff. So why in the name of common sense would you put him in that? It's just like that could just be like Muhammad. You sound like a dope, Mustard. So I don't know. Following your exact same reason. If one guy has lied to me, why not assume that everyone is lying? You can do that. That's part of that. That's within your will. Is that a good move? This guy's lied to me, therefore always assume everyone's lying. No, that's stupid. So better luck next time. Stay away from Islam. Pulls away glasses. That would be funny.
That would be funny. That'd be hilarious.
Islam. Everyone hates the Jews because we are the best. The Muslims really want to F us because we are the GOAT. That's messed up.
I want to be the very best.
Momo created a whole religion and leading billions of people astray to cover up your secret homosexual relationship. Yeah, that would be funny if that was the actual story. He got, people, hey, what were you doing in that cave? We heard all sorts of moaning in there. Oh, yeah, because that was the angel Gabriel. And he just stuck with that lie forever. Jordan Peterson is an ultra-crepidarian. D. Wood, that was a great story about the rat. Thank you. I'm sure lots of people have stories about...
it was the best story I've heard in my entire life.
Stories about rats and so on, killing critters. Big fan, David. If Josephus or Tacitus also credible enough to corroborate omission of the resurrection, so they go together... Latter more noteworthy. Wait, big fan, David. If Josephus and Tacitus also credible enough to corroborate, what do you mean omission of the resurrection? I don't know what you mean by omission. Omission would be leaving it out. So what would you mean corroborate omission of the resurrection so they go together? Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that.
Maybe there's a secret message about goats here. I don't know, because it says go to.
And here we was tidying up and watching Jordan B. Peterson and literally fell out of my wheelchair when he said, yes, he's God. It was awesome praying for you guys. Thank you.
He's God, man.
And we're about to see it. AP should observe the Sabbath on Saturday.
Pause.
Oh, AP, should Christians observe the Sabbath on Saturday? Why would you be asking a guy not even a Christian?
Well, as the foremost scholar on this topic, let me tell you what should be done in this situation. First off, the one thing I would like to remind you of is that I am not the person to answer this question. Thank you for listening.
And we have to trust everything he says because of the glasses. Don't pay attention to the words. Pay attention to the glasses, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's go ahead and check out this first clip where they start in 2.5 hours. In 2.5 hours of interview, they probably spend, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes of that talking about no, actually longer if you factor in like talking about the Sermon on the Mount and stuff. So probably 40 minutes if you're factoring everything where they're talking about God or the Bible or anything. But anyway, lots of parts, and I picked out 3 sections. So let's go ahead and check out some of this.
What does one do on an individual level if they find themselves in such a society where individualism has taken hold? And they can't necessarily easily change the society? Are there day-to-day, week-to-week choices that I'm making that are pushing me away from that meaning and purpose and sort of collective, I guess, sense of responsibility? Like the individual listening to this now that completely agrees with you finds himself as being a lonely person and goes, what do I do about this, Jordan?
Oh, I did want to point out as far as background, because I didn't give the lead into that. But one of the things is Jordan Peterson was talking in the interview. He talks about interesting stuff like mental health, and you have all these various relationships, and then you have like your kind of short-term self as far as like what you're trying to get done right now, and then like how your long-term goals and so on, and what you're doing in the short term line up with what your long-term goals are, and how does this tie in with various relationships, and how does this tie in with something higher that you're striving after and stuff. And he says mental health is when those things align. When all these different relationships and goals and so on actually like are working together and align, that's going to be mental health. And if those things are out of whack and you're being pulled in all these different directions, you're going to have bad mental health and so on. And so they end up in a discussion about individualism and what society's doing and how it's messing people up mentally and so on. And so what he was asking is, this hyper individualism where you're connected less and less to everything else, and everything's pushing you in that direction and so on. Like what do you do here? What?
Nothing.
One of the things you do with disagreeable people who are more inclined.
Charles Caleb Colton, AP, said, if you have nothing to say, then say nothing. Pretty smart, right?
Interesting.
Well, one of the things you do with disagreeable people who are more inclined by temperament to be competitive and attain victory for themselves is one of the exercises you can do with disagreeable people. If you're a disagreeable extrovert, you tend to be narcissistic. And the problem with that, technically, is that you alienate people. And the problem with that is, well, you're hypersocial. So if you alienate people, well, then you don't have anyone. And not only is that lonesome, but it's also extremely impractical. I mean, you certainly, and no doubt, learn this more as you become successful. It's like you need a team. And the more tightly knit it is, and the more you're all working in the same direction, the better everything works. Well,
This wasn't planned, but right when he said that, right now, because we just were talking about the narcissists who lead the ummah now. But think about that. If you're you have a narcissist, but the way they'll treat people is everything about them. They end up like destroying their relationships with people around them, which causes a problem for them because they want everyone to be adoring them, and yet they're turning people away from them with their narcissism. And so it's just funny because you see that playing out. That he's entirely correct. You see that playing out all over the place. You'll have the Dawa guy the more attention they get, the more everything becomes about me, give me attention, give me everything I want. And the more they're like that, the more people will criticize them or insult them or turn away from them. But that makes them they don't like that. So what do? More of the same. And eventually they'll, hey, did you know that Elon Musk is conspiring against me? And he's diverting all the resources of Tesla and SpaceX and Twitter to come after me and target me because I'm so powerful in his mind, and I'm the biggest thing destroying him in this world. And now, okay, you sound like an idiot. That's what they do. What they do.
it's not useful to be a narcissist because maybe you get what you want right now this time. But as a propagating strategy across time, it's a degenerating game.
Degeneration.
Okay, so what do? Well, instead of thinking about what you want or even thinking about how to strategize in relationship to your goals, you might think about what you could do for other people, or you could think about what you would do if you only did what was true and right. Those are very different orientations, right? And the religious orientation fundamentally is the orientation towards what is true and right. And you might say, well, I don't know what's true and right. It's like, yeah, kind of, because our knowledge is bounded and we're ignorant. So do we understand the nature of the highest good? Well, no, but it's a very rare person who doesn't know some of the time when they're doing something wrong. And it's also a non-existent person who doesn't have some concept of the good, because you can't act without a concept of the good, because you act towards a goal you deem desirable. So that
everyone's got a concept of the good because everyone's acting towards a goal that they deem desirable. So even if you're not clear, and even if we have disagreements, we all understand like a concept of the good. And anyway, so that's setting up something that's about.
What if somebody believes that everything is bad and that's good? No, everything is bad and bad is good, and I'm aiming for bad. Mm-hmm. Does it then mean that my bad is actually also my good, and that I also have a good to work toward?
Yes. Just like if I decide that up is down and down is up, and then I want to go up, so I go down, and then I decide that well, if I'm then I have to go up, or if I have to go right, then I want to go left, and so on. And so my left becomes right, and so on. So yes,
Based.
all right.
It's up. I mean, unless you're trying to make your life worse, and people do that from time to time, but you read that as an exception. I mean, you have to have descended into hell in a way before you're in a situation where you're actively working to make your own life worse. That can happen. But assuming that you're relatively well embedded in the realm of the normal, then you're moving towards something better always, because otherwise there's no motivation. We know this technically. This isn't even disputable. So the positive emotion systems that make you enthusiastic, so that fill you with the desire to move towards a goal, independent of fear, say, because you could move towards a safety goal because you're afraid. But imagine you're trying to accomplish something. You have a goal. The positive emotion systems operate to track progress to the goal. Positive emotion is a consequence of evidence of movement towards a desired goal. Okay, so now you have a proximal.
I know where he's going with this, and there's a reason I pulled this clip up. But positive emotion is a consequence of making progress towards a goal. That's actually good to know. You have a goal, you're making progress towards it, and there's good emotion that is associated with that. I'm just saying that for people who are feeling down. They also talk about this. We're not going to look at it, but they also talk about this as far as, hey, if you're miserable or something like that, pick something that you are capable of doing, even if it's something small. Do that. Get it done. That will actually affect you. You will have a positive emotion associated with accomplishing that small thing. Then pick something else. Keep doing that. Then you can keep picking bigger things and so on. That's how you get out of that, move forward.
Goal, like our proximal goal right now might be just to, like in the most micro level possible, might be to display facial signs of interest in the conversation, right?
Hey, Pete, check this out. It's kind of funny because he said, I don't know if everyone just missed what he just said right there. He said, he's talking about like a Russian nesting doll, right? Like a Russian nesting doll. You got the doll, and then you open that up, and there's this other doll in there. You open that one up, there's a little doll, and they start getting smaller and smaller until they're like all tiny, like Muslim child brides and so on. But you got this Russian doll, and he's saying there are these good things, right? And you've got this big good thing, and so on. Within that, and he says, think about what we're doing right now, and something we might be focused on as doing something good is just having facial expressions that make it seem like we're interested in this conversation. I thought that was funny because it sounded like biographical. Like, right now I'm focusing on having a facial expression that makes me seem interested in this. I don't think that's what he's saying, but it sounded kind of like that's what he's saying. Like, hey, right now, what are we doing? Let's suppose we have some small goal that we're working towards right now as we're having this discussion. What might that be? We might be thinking, okay, let me make my facial expressions convey the idea that I'm interested in what's going on right now. And I don't know, I just thought that was funny. Because if either one of them is doing that, it's like saying you're really bored, but you want to, and I don't think they are. They seem to be having a good conversation. But anyway, he's going to say, so that's part of a bigger goal of we want to have like a good podcast. And that's part of a bigger goal. And then you eventually get to like, where is all of this aiming? But anyway, here we go.
It's a very micro goal, but then that's nested in our desire to have an interesting conversation.
Let me back up.
By the way, that's called a Matryoshka doll. That's what it's called. Just so you know.
No, it's called a Russian nesting doll.
Display facial signs of interest.
Where did you start that?
You have a proximal goal. Mm-hmm. Like our proximal goal right now might be just to, like in the most micro level possible, might be to display facial signs of interest in the conversation, right? It's a very micro goal, but then that's nested in our desire to have an interesting conversation on the topic we're having right now, and then inside the podcast as a whole, and then as part of the podcast enterprise that you're involved in, as part of the book enterprise, let's say, that I'm involved in, that's nested inside our view of the world, right? So you see there are nestings of the good that have no upper limit. That's Jacob's ladder, by the way. And at the top of that is the good itself, which is the divine for all intents and purposes.
Divine, what do you mean by that?
That's a definition. That's what I mean, is that in the hierarchy of what's good, the divine is the peak.
The top, okay.
Right.
So that's the definition. Whatever's at the top, that is the peak. But he breaks it down a little
Don't
more.
know what that is. That's also an insistence in the biblical texts, by the way. In the final analysis, the divine is ineffable. It's not definable. And it's beyond you. And that's partly because there's a practical reason for that even. You know this as well. As you move towards a goal, let's say you attain a goal. Okay, now you've accomplished. Well, are you done? It's like, no, a new potential goal emerges, a new pinnacle. And then maybe you'll accomplish that, but then a new one exists. And so you could say that the domain of the domain of opportunity is limitless. Right, because the thing that's at the pinnacle recedes as you approach it. And you could say that's a technical definition of God, which is accurate. That is a technical definition of God. God is the good towards which all goods point.
Interesting.
God is the good at which all goods point. So did everyone catch that? Because it's interesting. It's weird because I mean there are philosophers who would break this down. He's a psychologist and so on. But so you have some small good thing that you're aiming, but that small good thing that you're aiming at is part of a bigger good thing that you're aiming at, which is part of a bigger good thing that you're aiming at, and so on. It's like, okay, if this little thing is part of this, and that's part of this, and that's part of this, and so it seems like there's something that's at the top of all that hierarchy. What is that? We can't exactly define it. You could give it a label and say God or something like that, but ultimately it's going to be something that you can't really grasp with your mind because it's so far beyond you, and yet has to be there. So it is the good at which all goods are aiming at. That is one definition among other definitions. It's not the only definition of God. It's focusing on one particular feature of God, namely the moral aspect, or that God is the supreme good, that God is the good at which all things aim, or God is the good at which all goods aim. Or pointing
is this kind of would you say that that this would be a disagreement or a challenge or an alternative explanation to the idea that human flourishing is the ultimate good because everything else that you do is for that, and that is the only thing that is not done for any other purpose. Instead of proposing that idea, you would propose this idea, which Jordan Peterson just presented, which would be that God would be the ultimate good to work toward.
Yeah, the idea is if you don't have something like God at the top of your hierarchy, and you have instead something like human flourishing, then it becomes, why is human flourishing? If there's nothing beyond that, if there's no good that because keep in mind, theism is true. We're created in the image of God. We're told be fruitful and multiply and so on. Human flourishing is good is good in reference to the will of God or something like that. If you just say we do all these things and they're all good insofar as they promote human flourishing or they contribute to human flourishing, and human flourishing is the ultimate good, The obvious question there is, why would you claim that human flourishing is good? Why would you say that? Are you saying it just because that's your species? Because, I mean, think, why not say bed bug flourishing is good? The bed bugs flourishing as much as possible is good.
Very, very easy, because Aristotle said it. I don't have to think about that any further. Why do I care? He already said it. So.
You did have various people over time who said, as long as Aristotle said it, it's as good as gold. But no, the idea here is, why, if you have a worldview in which human flourishing is the ultimate good, and that has no sort of grounding, there's no reason you're saying it except, well, that's my species, and I'm just going to say that. If a lion could say it, he would say lion flourishing is the ultimate good. If a bed bug could say something, a bed bug would say bed bug flourishing is the ultimate good. You're really expressing what you're really expressing is just your DNA programmed you to have a survival instinct, and you're blurting out that I'm what matters and so on. See, here's the problem. You take human flourishing. If you then understand, here's where I get that idea from. It's just kind of it's just wired into me to like preserve myself and to, and what helps preserve me is what helps preserve other people around me. I'm stronger in a community. It's better off for my welfare. Then it's like the entire system breaks down. It's like you're saying, I'm putting all my confidence in all goods in a kind of illusion that was just programmed into me. And there's something weird about that. Peterson's view is that would ultimately break down. It doesn't work. It doesn't work saying, hey, I'm just going to say this is the goal, and I'm going to define everything with respect to that goal. But if you take naturalism through to its logical conclusion, where did you get that idea and that goal? It's just hardwired into you, like it's hardwired into any species. And so what you're really just saying is what any species could say. You're just putting yourself at the top because it's your species, and it's called speciesism. My species is just, I'm just going to say my species is more important than any other, which you'd have to say, why? Say, oh, because I'm smarter. Okay, a cheetah's faster. Like what? You can't just pick something that defines you and then say, oh, that makes me better, because other species could do the exact same thing. And so basically the entire system would break down. You'd have to recognize all goods at which we're aiming are ultimately derived from something we're programmed in, just because we're programmed to seek the good of our society, which is ultimately me just trying to look out for myself.
Well, I'm not a Sikh, but I have to specify. I don't
maybe
care
a
about
closet Sikh. Look at your
possibly.
beard.
I don't care about the jaguar, but isn't Aristotle's point was always with the whole human flourishing, happiness, eudaimonia. Everything in life that you do is done for the sake of something else. Ultimately, everything that you do seems to be for the sake of being happy, or being content, or being satisfied. Happiness on an individual level is the only thing that is not done for the sake of something else. It is the only thing that you don't do because you want to achieve something else as a result. You want to achieve that, and that is the only thing that is done for its own sake, which is why it seems to be the ultimate goal of the individual human experience, and would be the ultimate good, the greatest good. It's kind of still a compelling point, but how exactly do you get from there to pointing at God, for example, as the greatest good?
Well, yeah. Think about what you were just saying. Aristotle, keep in mind, Aristotle argued for God. Wouldn't be it'd be more the God of the philosophers than like the God of Judaism and Christianity. But take something like that. Take his view. Keep in mind, these guys are all supernaturalists of one sort or another. But if you just took that as like a naturalist, so I'm just going to define when he talks about happiness, we don't actually have like a translation of eudaimonia. It gets translated as happiness and so on. That's okay as long as you understand that this is a certain kind of happiness that is linked to human flourishing. So some actually translate it as flourishing instead of happiness. But anyway, because we think of happiness as just like a feeling. Oh, I feel happy right now. And you could get that feeling by shooting up. That would not be eudaimonia. So eudaimonia is like flourishing. It's more, matter of fact, it's more along the lines of what Jordan Peterson was just saying. You have a goal, and as you're making progress towards that goal, then you have these good emotions that are associated with that. You kind of roll all of that into a ball. You are making progress towards a goal that is flourishing, and there is a good feeling that is associated with that. So you kind of roll that up into a ball. That's like eudaimonia.
True.
If you have that and you do not have that connected to anything, what's the basis for making that? What is the basis of making that kind of claim? In other words, is it true to say human flourishing is the greatest good? And you say, okay, how do you determine whether that statement is true? Human flourishing or eudaimonia or something like that is the good.
That is a funny point. You could sit down and have a conversation about human flourishing, about human satisfaction, human happiness, whatever you want to call it. But if you really sat down and talked about the meta of that, and what the actual reasoning behind your aim for ultimate flourishing or satisfaction or happiness, whatever you want to call it, would be, it's like asking the question. Okay, I get it. Flourishing is the greatest thing. That's the ultimate thing. Okay, but why exactly? And why exactly is that the ultimate thing? What exactly do you have once you get there? In the end, you die. Mm-hmm. You die mania, but then you die. So
you die mania, then you die. You should write a book called "You Die Mania, Then You Die."
Yeah. So what then? What is the reasoning?
And I'm thinking about just the claim. If you said human flourishing is the highest good or something like that, say, okay, if you're starting from a place of naturalism or atheism, is that statement true? And if so, on what basis, right? Because we're not going to believe anything without evidence, right? Everything we say has to have good evidence for it. If we're good atheists, good naturalists, what's your evidence for that? That this is the highest good. And you'd have to say, if you took your worldview seriously, you have to say that what this ultimately boils down to is just, I'm a human being. I'm kind of programmed to seek my own survival, and I'm programmed with a kind of herd instinct because that helps my survival. And so I'm just defining the greatest good as what's good for my species. And any other species, if they could talk and reason, would say the exact same thing. Again, a lion would say the most important thing in the world is lion flourishing. And an insect would say the greatest thing is an insect flourishing. So what basis once you realize how you would come to that conclusion if naturalism is true, if you take naturalism seriously, you can't take the claim seriously. It's just like, we're going to live like that. We'll live like it's most important, but we can't really say that. There's no business. We're just programmed to think like that. And therefore I can't take it seriously. Whereas if that is embedded as a smaller doll within the bigger doll, and human beings are actually important, as in like human beings are the image of God, and we're told to be fruitful and multiply and so on, and that this is all connected to something bigger, then that makes perfect sense. But there's
I need to write this down. Eudaimonia, and then you die.
Eudaimonia, then you die. That is funny. That would be a good video.
Not sure why I never thought about that. So
I don't know if anyone's ever thought about it. You always blurt out things. I'm like, how did no one think of that before?
Funny.
Let's take a couple super chats and then we'll watch the next clip. Because of you guys, the word pusillanimous is stuck in my head. No, because of Muhammad Hijab. See, this is a Russian doll thing we're talking about, right? Hijab says it, but he doesn't know how to use the word right. He uses it as a noun. He goes, and this man is a pusillanimous. It's like, dude, it's an adjective, right? And then narcissistic is, by the way, it's exactly the same thing with him and Ben Shapiro. Although Ben Shapiro is more likely to have a clue who Muhammad Hijab is, just because they do stuff on YouTube all the time. But Muhammad Hijab made a video reacting to Ben Shapiro saying he's not a real man. You're not a real man. You're not a real MMA fighter. Blah blah blah. Whatever nonsense he was saying, and then said, and we all know that you watch my videos, Ben. Yes, we know that you watch my videos. How do we know? I saw a video of you where you used the word pusillanimous, and as we all know, I use the word pusillanimous, so we know you're watching my videos. This is the same thing where he thinks that since Elon Musk took down a post that that Hijab complained about. Hijab complained about it, so did tons of other people, and Elon took it down. But then Hijab concludes, "You see, Elon's taking advice from me on what he should take down." And then, of course, now Elon is threatening him because he talked about Elon's dad. But it's the same thing over and over again, that he thinks everyone. I mean, what else is a narcissist going to think? He thinks the entire world is paying attention to him.
Powerful.
If it makes you feel better, Hijab, we're paying attention to you because we absolutely love you, and you are a gold mine of entertainment and destroying your worldview for us.
But we don't love you as much as you love little kids. So
that's true. Thoughts on the Crusades? By the way, I think they're fair. I
love the Crusades.
The goal of the Crusades, the intent of the Crusades, hey, we're being attacked and Christian pilgrims are being attacked, and we have governments and we should do everything we can to protect Christians who are being abused and taken as slaves and sold as slaves and raped and all these things, and we're going to go protect them. That is a noble goal. With that said, lots of things that happened in the Crusades were not noble, because you basically took a bunch of people from various places in Europe, some of these very upstanding, chivalrous people. Others are basically on the levels of criminals and bandits and so on. And you tell them, hey, we're going to go and attack these other places and take their stuff and so on. And so, not everything that happened. You had a bunch of bad stuff within the Crusades. Overarching goal, good and noble and makes sense. Some of the things and it's the same thing with anything, right? You can say, hey, there's this guy, there's this German guy over here we all need to go deal with, and he's trying to take over the world. We have to go deal with him. Okay, that's a good goal. Are there messed up things that happen along the lines? Yes, there are. There are things. There are things you could point to and say, wow, this guy did something messed up.
I would say that the Crusades were kind of based. Of course, there were aspects of it which were quite problematic, depending on which crusade we're talking about. The Crusades involved, they were mass campaigns that weren't quite organized. They were necessary, and they came as a reaction to calls for help by the Eastern Christian world, by the Eastern Roman Christian world, with the intensifying Muslim invasions and the attacks on pilgrims and all that. So the Western world jumps in, the Western Christian world jumps in and starts organizing the Crusades to go there and to fight and to liberate the land and to protect the pilgrims. But as part of those, certain communities that really didn't deserve it, or that really weren't the problem, were also attacked and also suffered as a result. One of the campaigns infamously resulted in certain Western Christian crusaders organizing a separate crusade in the middle of the crusade and attacking the Eastern Roman Empire and taking it down and putting their own Catholic empire in place of the Eastern Roman Empire, which is one of the reasons why it's so infamous and so disliked in Eastern Christianity, for example. But in general, they were totally necessary, or a general Christian force fighting against the invading Islamic forces, protecting pilgrims, protecting Christians, taking land back, and so on, was absolutely necessary. Was it done the right way? Not necessarily.
So what AP is saying is, it's a good goal. It was a good goal then. It's a good goal now. So we should take all these lands back.
Start the crusade.
But we should make sure that people are treated fairly as we're taking these lands back.
Fine, okay. Whatever.
Before that, one second. Apollo says TLDR, subjective morality is evidence for theism.
TLDR means too long, didn't read.
Yeah, I know. I just looked that up. I don't understand. Too long, didn't read. Subjective morality is evidence for theism. That was more along the lines of we all believe in a good. If you take naturalism to its logical conclusion, it's all just subjective. and therefore the entire system breaks down. You shouldn't actually take it seriously, except in like just very practical terms. Whereas if you take it seriously and think, no, human flourish, all these things are actually good, then it doesn't work out.
Powerful.
Jungian psychology is Gnostic in its very nature. Peterson is a Gnostic, and that's something so far beyond you is the monad. God would be the monad. You see that Tate is back on house arrest? Yeah, every time I hear he's free and he's about to do his world tour, suddenly the next day, actually, he's back on house arrest.
What apparently happened is that the courts and anybody else, nobody actually made an official announcement that his house arrest was lifted. It was just his own legal team. Well, they're just going to the press and saying, "Yeah, house arrest lifted, and so on." But it was in process of being lifted or not, and has eventually been rejected. So he's back under house arrest now. And I think there is right now. I think they're in the process of within the next 90 or 180 days. As far as I remember, which is quite long.
That's weird, since all the charges have been dropped and there's no evidence in the case file, as I keep hearing from Tate and his stupid fans who believe this idiotic nonsense, instead of spending 5 seconds actually glancing at one of the court documents.
I think they're in the final stage of the court, the prosecution having to submit and the court making the final decision on the second case, which is what the house arrest was about, on whether they will be indicted or not. So considering that they didn't lift the house arrest, what is most likely happening right now is that they're preparing to issue the final conclusion of the investigation for the second case, which is investigation for trafficking of minors, among other things. And for that, they will submit to the court their findings, and the court will most likely then issue an indictment, which would mean that they would be twice indicted for 2 separate cases, one containing rape, human trafficking, organized crime, and so on, the other containing trafficking of minors, repeated rape, and so on. These guys are in big trouble.
Big trouble. And it's interesting because the legal system there is a bit different. It sounds like it's matter of fact, just recently, you're talking about just a few days ago when the Tates were announcing, oh, the charges have been dismissed and stuff because they dropped the case because they admit that it was all lies. And then, of course, Murdered by Crayons and Milk Bar posted what was actually said, and it's this kind of case where it's this big conspiracy to do all these crimes and so on. It's like they present it as one big case involving all the different people, Andrew and Tristan and Luana and Georgiana or whatever. They present it as one big case, and then the judge sent it back to the prosecutor and said, it's not clear on their role. You're saying they have some vague involvement. You need to say exactly what these ladies have done or being accused of that you're going to prove in court. I'm not accepting this big case until you clarify that. So resubmit it when you can. And of course, so they says, hey, resubmit this when you fix these things. And what's the Tate's response? See, they dropped the case and we've been completely exonerated. And so that's not what happened at all. It's not within a million miles of what happened. Dude, you have to wonder, because all this stuff is only going to hurt them in court, because if these guys are called to the stand to testify and their credibility is on the line, you can show lie after lie after lie after lie. And everything they're saying right now, like when Tate goes on and stuff and says, this was all 10 years ago, and then they can show him admitting it. Okay, you've just destroyed your credibility as a witness in your own case. But all of this stuff, it's very easy for a prosecutor to say, okay, now, when the judge sent back the paperwork and said we have to clarify the roles of Luana and Georgiana and exactly what we're accusing them of, you said that the charges have all been dismissed and you're going to go become prime minister of the UK. Why did you say you knew that was a lie? Why did you say that? And this idiot's going to be, on a stand trying to defend all this stuff. So anyway, the idea is like all this stuff is like will hurt them at trial. And so why do they keep hurting themselves? Why would they deliberately be hurting themselves? That's not something that's going to give him extra time. It's just something that's going to be used against him. In other words, they're going to completely destroy any credibility this guy has on the stand, which that makes it, that means that he can't explain, well, what really happened. No one's going to believe you. No one's going to believe you. So why are you doing it? All I can think of is they're just trying to, they know they're going to be locked up. They know they're going to spend, let's say 10 or 15 years in prison, but they know until they actually get locked up, the best way to make money is to continue deceiving their followers. And because then they can come out with their new coin, their new crypto or whatever, and they keep getting money. It's like it's like they know they're going away for hibernation. They're trying to get as fat as possible, right? The bear is trying to get as fat as possible before going to hibernate. You want as much money stored up for you as you can before you go get locked up, because that's going to help. That's going to help you. That's going to help you.
I just hope that as a result of this, both of them will be locked up for at least 2 decades and will be in oblivion, and society will move on. The only thing that I feel kind of bad about is that people were actually fooled, or many others have actively and knowingly advocated for such sick, messed up stuff, and have sold Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate as good guys to the rest of the world. It is so bizarre. It is so ridiculous. The one thing is, I'm still not sure what I think about this, but I think this is a good thing. Romania doesn't have a jury system, so there is no jury that they can impress or manipulate or anything like that. They have to deal with a judge and possibly a panel of judges that will all be checking each other. So you can't rely on manipulating people.
And it's also interesting because I'm sure it's already come up 100 times, but it'll definitely be brought up in trial that Andrew specifically saying the reason he moved to Romania is because the judicial system is so much more easily corruptible. I could just walk in there with stacks of cash and throw them at he said, I'll walk into the police station, bam, here's the cash. If I go into a judge, I'm going to say, how much to walk out of here today. And so if you're a judge, you can't let this guy slide on anything, or people are going to be like, how much did he pay you? Come on.
As far as I remember, the prosecution even brought this up already in their the document, in the indictment. So I'm pretty sure that when they go to trial, the prosecution will remind everyone, including the judges, of that.
Oh, they will, every single day. Fun times ahead. Seems like Peterson has been really listening to Jonathan. Do you know how that name is pronounced? I've seen it, but I've never heard it pronounced, and it's one of those weird foreign names. Peugeot, is that right?
I think so. Peugeot.
Hey, who knows how to pronounce this name? Because I've seen it 1,000 times. I've never heard it pronounced. Peugeot or Peugeot?
Peugeot. Ooh, I don't know. Let's see.
Which is based, great thinker. We should check out one of the guy's videos one time. I was watching Mike Winger. You're about to get banned right now, Kel Grandy. There better be something in here to indicate that you're not on his side, because I'm about to ban you.
It is Peugeot.
I was watching Mike Winger's live stream today to learn what not to. Okay, now you're good. You're okay. If you're watching it for educational purposes on how not to be or something like that, or to ultimately sabotage his evil sluggishness. I was watching Mike Winger's live stream today to learn what not to do to avoid being a nerd, and he called himself based. That is hilarious. And I'm so based. I'm basically the Christian Andrew Tate. I'm Mike Winger. And there's a similarity. We talk about the draw of Tate and like why people follow him. And Peterson, Peterson and others point out this. He's basically giving you a quick, easy fix. That's what he's doing. But Winger's kind of similar. Is like, oh, if you just sit around playing Dungeons and Dragons and watching Star Trek all day, then you'll be a super cool Christian alpha male. It's like, okay, dude, I'm sure that'll work with some people. Does Peterson realize yet that God is alive and wants a relationship with us? Where is God just an God just an abstract concept to him? I think he's somewhere in between, and I think he's comfortable. I think he's comfortable not taking a position or not even being firm on a position. And I say that because he does something like frequently that I'm not doing it with the same topics, but I get it because I'm like that in certain other ways. Like people say, David, are you this or that? And be like, I'm neither, and I'm fine with both, even though they, like if you took some position, and Christians have multiple positions on that. If I haven't thought through it, or if I don't know the answer, if I don't even think I can get to the answer on that with without tons of research, I'm fine. I'm fine. If either one of those is the case, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. It does not affect me. It would not affect, if that one turned out to be true, it would not affect, like, it would not change me. And if that one were true, if that were the correct view, it wouldn't change me. So I'm just fine. And I'm fine with not knowing the correct answer to that sort of thing. And I'm fine with not taking a position and saying that's my position. He's like that, but he's like that with like much bigger issues. So I'm not sure. And I didn't get the answer to this question, Anne, from the clips that I've watched, but it's one of the things I keep wondering too. Like what exactly, and occasionally he'll give glimpses, but not enough for me to say this is his actual position on this.
This reminds me of like not saying or not giving a statement on certain things. Reminds me of the fact that IP never
He said not saying. It's like the gay pronunciation of. Look, he's a not say.
Not say.
Not say.
The IP never tells people what kind of what denomination he is and what church he goes to. And after the last time that I was live with him, I asked him after the show what he is, and he told me, so I know it now. But people who are watching don't know, so I just want to brag about that.
Yeah,
and I also want to say that
I don't even know. So you know more than I do.
I could make a deal with anyone who wants to pay a significant amount of money and wants to find out. Contact me, and I might tell you what he is. Just kidding. So don't do that.
No, do it. You've got the info. People will pay. Why does Jenna sound like a Diddy party? It sounds exactly like a Diddy party. The Islamic concept of paradise sounds exactly like a Diddy party. Hey, shout out to Ayatollah Khamenei, gifted 20 Apologetics Roadshow memberships. Thank you. Iran is finally good for something in this world.
Wait, does Mike Winger actually have merch?
Does he? And get your custom Mike Wingeling glasses. And this Mike Wingeling lunchbox that you could bring to work. It's got... what merch could this guy possibly have?
I was going to get a Wingeling shirt, but apparently he doesn't really have that. He doesn't seem to sell merch.
Oh, that's because he's a weakling. Who would buy it? Who would buy something with Mike Wingeling on it? Hey,
I would.
Hey, he could probably sell a shirt that says something dorky like Wingelings for life, Wingeling for life, or something like that, and a bunch of his dork fans would buy it. Bunch of nerds, man.
I think.
Look! Wingeling for life, and it's got the Star Trek logo above it, and some Dungeons and Dragons dice down below.
No, I think it would be. I'm thinking of a brilliant design, which would be, the phrase "proletarians of the world unite." So it should be a Mike Winger's face looking like Karl Marx, and it would say "Wingelings of the world unite." You know what we should do? We should make some Wingeling merch. Sell it ourselves. All his nerd dork fans would buy it. And then he'd be enraged. He's like, but they're using my likeness in promotion. I didn't give them legal consent, but what's he going to do? Sell us? Then we would sue us? We just make fun of him even more, right? Look, Mike Winger is suing us. This would be funny. We got to do something funny like that. I'm going to do that right now.
Eli says, the real magical powers of evolution is not the belief that we came and evolved from nothing, but the real power is how it makes the Dumas... delusional Richard Dawkins and his likes appear sophisticated talking about it. Yeah, that is. And we, Eli, by the way, thanks for the super chat, Eli. But it is funny how we talk about this British accent that if you actually think about some of the stuff that Dawkins is saying, if it weren't for his super intelligent British accent, people would instantly see how stupid this sounds. But the accent is overwhelming with some of his things. I'm thinking specifically once you start trying to answer arguments for the existence of God and so on, start sounding real dumb. It's 4:04 a.m. in Israel. Too deep for me now.
Powerful.
God incarnates, 4 gospel accounts, 500 eyewitnesses, 2,000 years of history, the world. Jordan Peterson. Jesus is God. The world. Wait, okay. Okay, I finally got this. So God incarnates, We got the 4 gospel accounts, 500 eyewitnesses, 2,000 years of history. The world says, meh. Then you've got Jordan Peterson, Jesus is God, eh? And the world go, oh my goodness, Jesus is God. That is funny. I do like these things, Abraham, in the sense that it's like the parallel here is like Wes Huff, although like completely different category. Wes Huff has been doing work and writing articles and posting videos for years. Never took off. We didn't even know who the guy was. And then like one little thing draws attention to it, and then everyone starts paying attention. So with Wes, it was we didn't know who he was. We didn't know who Billy Carson was. All of a sudden, some big thing happens, and then everyone starts paying attention to something real quick, and that's cool. You kind of ride that wave. Someone got the world's attention on something. That's awesome. Same thing just happened with Elon and the grooming gangs in the UK. People have been ignoring it. You had politicians and journalists trying to cover it up for years and so on. All of a sudden, Elon just shines a spotlight on it, gets massive attention to it. This is a completely different category, but you've got all these different views of Jesus and so on. All of a sudden, Jordan Peterson, Jesus is God, yeah. And then everyone's like, wait, what's going on over here? Why did he say that? And he shines a spotlight on something, gets attention. So it's cool like that. So these are good times. And matter of fact, it's actually, this is a good time. I'm debating Alex O'Connor next month on whether Jesus claimed to be God. So, and I'll just walk out there. I should just walk out on stage. Alex, you know Jordan Peterson? You know Jordan Peterson, Alex?
Yeah, I do.
Big fan of Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, I do. I am. Yeah.
Smart guy, this Jordan Peterson, you think?
Yeah, I believe so.
Well, you might be interested to know Jordan Peterson says Jesus is God. Oh, and I just walk out the building. Boom, done.
Well, David, I have talked with many people about this question. I have interviewed lots of different people, and until this point, I was not convinced.
No further questions.
I was not convinced, but now that you bring this up, I think I am convinced as well.
Absolutely. That's how the debate's going to go, ladies and gentlemen. Super dope. So, guys, there are cool times when something that should be getting tons and tons of attention but hasn't suddenly gets tons and tons of attention, and that's good. Isn't happiness the absence of unhappiness? Thank you both for the great work. Happiness is...
No, actually, unhappiness is the absence of happiness.
And it's going to depend on what you mean by happiness. We were talking about in the Aristotelian sense and so on. But even in the normal sense, you could talk about, matter of fact, they actually talk about that.
What came first, happiness or unhappiness?
Happiness.
Fight.
Raymond Ibrahim's, and you have to define things in other ways because think, if you just said absence of unhappiness, well, a rock has an absence of unhappiness. That doesn't mean that the rock is happy. So things have to be more than just an absence or a lack.
But Iraq also went through a long civil war.
That's true. That's true.
So, yeah.
Raymond Ibrahim's Defenders of the West is a must-read. Raymond Ibrahim, yeah, he's been on the channel. We need to get him back on because he's actually been posting videos, and some of those videos are taking off. So, yeah, we need to get Raymond Ibrahim back on there. Very clear thinker, extremely knowledgeable about history. Matter of fact, we might need to revisit some of the Crusades and so on and get him on. D. Wood is the most good-looking apologetics. I agree. Not like some of these other hideous, ugly people who want to be apologists. D. Wood learned from Raymond Ibrahim, totally based. That guy is totally based. It's weird. I don't know if you, he used to actually be a bodybuilder. He was this massive muscle-bound dude. And then for years, he was not that. He was out of shape, had a belly and stuff. And then when I saw him recently, when I had him on, he was like this muscle-bound dude again, even though he's old. And I was like, how'd you get all massive again? He said, there's so much things that would tick me off. And so, and I realized when I was younger, I get back, when I get ticked off, I go to the gym and start lifting. So I said, it was funny because Chappelle said the same thing. When Chappelle went from super skinny dude to like big guy, he said he'd be stressed out. And he decided to take out his stress in the gym. He said he just kept getting bigger and bigger. So it's kind of funny.
So are we ever going to watch the video where Jordan Peterson says Jesus is God?
Yeah, let me just take this. Gwyneth says, my ancestor was in the Crusades. He was given land and noble title by Richard I as a reward. So I guess fighting Momo is in my DNA. Ancestors are watching. Yeah, that's actually interesting because there were a lot of people in the Crusades. So probably lots of people have ancestors who were born to fight the legions of Momo, the Chomo. He says, AP, I like your flow, bro. What motivates you? Intellectual honesty, crushing Islam. God bless.
You like my flow, bro?
Like your flow, bro?
Mean? Which flow do you mean?
Normally, your flow would be your rap skills, yeah.
You mean when I rap, when I drop my bars, when I kill it? Intellectual honesty. I don't know. I don't really know. It's like I had an easier answer to this in the past. Nowadays, I kind of find it difficulter to answer. But I would say it's kind of like a sense of justice. That's it. Primarily, I would say. I don't know.
And keep following that reasoning, AP, where that sense of justice ultimately derives and whether it's true and whether it is indeed a noble goal and so on. And listen to Jordan on where that ultimately leads. Did want to jump.
I hope it will make it not difficulter to get somewhere, but more easy.
Hey, we have we still have a bunch of super chats. We do want to jump into the next clip though, but this one I wanted to read this one real quick. It's a two-parter. Apollo says, Dr. Peterson, what's your favorite color? Well, that depends on what you mean by favorite or color. One must acknowledge the underlying verisimilitude that's irrevocably nested within a multi-layered metaphysical substrate, which many people fundamentally conflate with their ideological presuppositions, with no uncertain regularity, causing the inadvertent dismissal of Jung's archetype. Nice. Oh, wait, he's not done. Extrapolation of the quintessential axiomatic juxtaposition of the quintessential axiomatic juxtaposition required to achieve Raskolnikov's magnitude of neo-Marxist existential nihilism.
Nice.
That's what it's funny because it's actually borderline exactly what Jordan Peterson sounds like. For anyone who doesn't know, which is weird because he has to know this because this is a psychological idea. It's called in simple terms, it's called the curse of knowledge, but it's the idea that and it has been shown. It was demonstrated in, it's called the tapping game, not the kind of tapping that Dawa guys like to do with goats, but tapping where you actually tap out a song on something. And then there's an experiment. You have the tappers and the listeners, right? And the tappers, they try to tap out a song, a very simple song. It would be like row, row, row your boat or happy birthday or something like that. And they tap out the song and then they ask, and then the listeners are supposed to identify what the song is. And so if you were to tap out row, row, row your boat, to go, right? And so you guys get it because I just told you. But if I tapped out something else, even a very simple song, you would not get it. And so what that's all perfectly straightforward. What happened though was, and I forget the exact percentages, but you ask them, when you ask the tapper, hey, based on what you just tapped, is the other person going to get it? It would be like, let's say 90%, like they think, yeah, 90% sure this person is going to get it. When it would actually be like 5% of people who get it. So they're trying to figure out what's going on here. Why do I think you're understanding the message that I'm sending to you when you are not getting it at all? You're not. I think you're getting it, but you're not getting it. And the reason is when you're thinking of a song like row, row, row your boat, you're actually like sort of hearing it in your mind. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. When the person's just hearing this, they're not hearing it. They're hearing some taps, and they're not hearing the melody that you're hearing in your head. So you think they're getting that when they're not getting it. And they don't understand what you're getting. And so the idea is called the curse of knowledge. This, you know what you're doing in your head. That person does not know what you're doing. Because you have more information, you think this other person's getting it and they don't. But that can happen with people who learn something. If you take someone who's familiar with mathematics and so on, he'll be talking and thinking he's explaining because it's perfectly clear to him. And the other person can't understand what he's saying. That's what I'm saying. Jordan Peterson does this where he's using all this terminology and people don't understand what he's saying, but he probably understands what he's saying. But he thinks other people are understanding. But it's weird because you would think that he is aware of, again, matter of fact, he is. He's aware of the curse, what's called the curse of knowledge and these experiments and so on. And so, anyway, it's just interesting that he doesn't just periodically pause and say, let me stop and explain this in very, very, very simple terms with no word over 2 syllables.
Hey, David, what song is this?
Got that. That one's actually interesting because the song is actually just and plus you're German, so I knew you'd go with some German propaganda.
Powerful.
Nice, huh?
Yes.
All right, let's
It is by Wagner.
Yep.
Who was not a very good guy, but he made good music.
Not a very good guy. All right, guys, let's jump into this second clip here.
Because I'm trying to understand if, like, this idea of God is a set of evolutionary motivations.
Yes, that it is, and it is that.
Or
You can
if
think
it's-
about it as rising up from the material world or descending from on heaven. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter fundamentally. It's the same. It doesn't matter. Those are different ways of looking at the same problem.
Did you catch that, AP? Because he was saying this in was it with Alex O'Connor or maybe with Dawkins, but he was saying this and people have trouble getting this because he's thinking in different terms and I didn't want to jump in so quickly, but this is that right there. What he just said is a huge issue for lots of people and they don't get what he's saying. And it's hard to understand what he's saying because he thinks completely differently from your average Christian and from your average atheist. And when he says something like, it's like when he's talking about, like, let's say rules or morality or something, and then someone says, okay, is this God handing these things to us, or is it us figuring these things out and getting like figuring things out that are ultimately like pointing to God? What is it? Is it top down or is it bottom up? Is it God handing these things to us or is it us figuring these things out? And Peterson, it's the same thing. He says it's the same thing. There's no difference. And he'll say things like, it doesn't matter. Either one, it's not changing anything for me, whichever way you're looking at it. And people are like, it makes a big difference. If it's, I've figured out something that works versus God has told me to do something, those are massively, massively, massively different things. And for him, he's saying, no, it doesn't matter. And it's the same thing. I've tried to figure out what he's saying. I've tried to figure this out. I'm not sure that I am correctly interpreting. I think I'm kind of in the right direction, but I think it's along the lines of, if you think of a book and you say, what is reading a book? Is that one person presenting his message or is it another person absorbing that message? It's like, I mean, it's both, right? It's both things. It's not one or the other. It's simultaneously both things, and it's sort of the same thing. And if you just said, think about it, if you wrote a book with no one to read it, then you don't have that. And if you were trying to read something that's, let's say, just gibberish, it's just random letters on a page where you couldn't be reading. So the idea of reading is that there is a message that's being delivered to you, and you're getting the message. Something along that. You could even think of it as science. Like there's what God has done in the universe, and then there's your effort to understand that. So what is science? Is it truths revealed by God, or is it truths that you've discovered? It's the same thing. It's both. It's simultaneously both. And you could look at it as either. It doesn't change science, right? So I think he's talking, and then in the moral realm, like what is a moral rule? Is this something that I've been like programmed by biology to do, or is it something that God has revealed? Is it moral claims? Are these things I'm figuring out about what works, or are these things that God has revealed? And Peterson's position is it's both. It's yes, God has revealed a moral realm. You are coming to greater and greater understanding of it. So is this God handing things down, or is it us figuring these things? It's both. There's no difference there. And so I think he's somewhere in that, although his thinking is radically different enough from what I'm used to that I can't say I'm totally on the right page there, but there's something there that I think is what he's getting at when he's saying this thing. So hope that helped someone, because everyone seems confused when he says this. Everyone, and I was too. And I tried to get my mind around it a bit.
When I say evolutionary motivations, it doesn't feel so divine. It doesn't feel like a reason to gather in a church. It feels like I'm just kind of
this guy's smart.
a robot that's being steered by these motivations of don't do that, do this. This feels good. If you're with your friends and family, you feel good, so do that more. And if you're with your friends and family, you're safer, so you're more likely to have kids. Or is it this sort of divine thing that we society has told us God is, where we should worship and we should thank you so much and go to a church and get on our knees and pray? Because they're two very different things. One is like practical and pragmatic, and the other one is this divine thing.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone catch that. So again, for Jordan, it's whether it's God giving you something or you kind of like working towards it and so on, working towards that. For Jordan is saying that's the same thing. And this guy, Steven, points out, well, wait a minute. If it's me sort of figuring things out and me being programmed by biology and so on to believe certain things and to do certain things and to feel good about certain things, that's not the sort of thing that you'd go to church and worship over. Whereas if it's like God just handing these things down, that's something you would worship over. So he's saying, and how are these things the same to you, Jordan? Just want to be clear. Because again, guys, I understand this is difficult stuff. It's difficult even for me listening to lots of stuff after I've listened to it multiple times.
Here's one way of thinking about it. So I mentioned that in the story of Abraham, God is the call to adventure. Okay, so that's a definition. Now, the divine that's put forward in these library of stories has multiple characteristics. He's characterized in many ways, but there's an insistence that that reflects an underlying unity. Now, the unity is incomprehensible in its essence. Okay, so you have to accept that as the initial starting point. You're not going to get the answer.
Yeah.
Okay. You can see something complex from a variety of different perspectives. Okay. In the story of Noah, God is the impulse that comes to the wise to prepare when trouble's brewing.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so now you can think of that as an instinct. You can think about it as
Gut instinct, intuition.
Negative emotion,
Yeah.
anxiety, but it's more than that, because you can be afraid of something that isn't real.
Yeah.
Okay, now you might have to ask yourself, okay, what are the preconditions for your fear? What are the preconditions to the validity of your fear? So you're afraid, and you should be. Well, let's say that's a characteristic of someone who's wise. Okay, so then the question is, well, what's the essence of the wisdom that makes your fear valid? Noah is described in the story of Noah as a man wise in his generations. So that means that by the moral standards of his time, he's an upstanding human being. Okay, so now you can imagine that means he exists in harmonious relationship with his present self and his future self. Okay, that makes him mature. But then he also does that in a way that serves his wife and his family and his community. So his self is balanced and optimized across those parameters. That makes him secure in his foundation and properly oriented. If you're secure in your foundation and properly oriented upward, then there's no difference between the voice of the divine and the instinct that preserves you in times of trouble.
Guys, get that? There's a few more seconds left to this particular clip, but I think he did. Again, you have to think about this. But there, I think he's doing a good job of explaining how it's the same thing. So what he does is he goes through different Bible stories. So the story of Abraham, and so even before like Abraham and Isaac, when it's just God calling Abraham, saying, "Abraham, pack your stuff, go to a completely different part of the world. I'm going to do something big with you over there." He's saying, so there, God is the spirit of adventure. That's not all God is, but that's like God is revealing himself as the spirit of adventure. But Jordan's saying, but we also as human beings have that. Like just as an organism, we like to go out and find, we want to go explore and so on. So he's saying that here you have something that God is saying, but it lines up perfectly with what we are. And then he goes on to the story of Noah, and the story of Noah is about being like wise and preparing wisely when, for disaster and so on. and talking about how, that's also something that you do biologically. You want to be careful and be safe and so on. And yet it's like God is commanding it and so on. So he's saying it's like, it's the same thing. You end up with the same thing, but he does have the idea, if you watch the full interview, that if you ultimately just try to boil everything down to materialism and so on, that the entire thing breaks down. So you need God in your picture, or the system inevitably breaks down. There's a few seconds left. Let's see.
But you see, you can't exactly get there by the mere bottom-up materialistic notion, because you could think about the fear that guides Noah as an instinct, but the instinct is pathological unless it exists in this wider moral framework. Because then you could have the fear of a coward. Well, that's not helpful.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's clip 2. I was basically trying to show everyone what he's been, that his ideas about God are significantly different from what your average Christian or Muslim might believe. Just wanted that for some of the groundwork, because the next clip we're looking at is him declaring Jesus is God, but then he goes into an explanation. So I'm just saying this because whenever you have someone like Jordan Peterson say, hey, if you stuck the camera outside the tomb, you would see Jesus walking out. We like, yay! But then you'll have other Christians like, but look what he means. He doesn't mean the same thing as you. And then you'll have other Christians going, boo, we don't care about that. Stop sharing that. We don't believe in him. He's basically a heretic. I'm in the Jordan Peterson is like the rest of us in that he's learning more as he goes along and so on. And the longer he goes, he seems to be discovering lots of interesting things, even though he's thinking about them radically different from the way you or I do. And even if you would not consider him, hey, that's not like Orthodox Christianity there. Anyone, if a complete atheist said, you know what, Jesus claimed to be God. I don't believe he's God because I don't believe in God, but I believe Jesus claimed. I'm like, okay, it's good that he's acknowledging that. It's good that he's acknowledging that. So with Jordan Peterson, when he's saying, yes, Jesus walked out of his tomb and you could have filmed it, and Jesus is God, although the way he's going to explain it is not the way anyone else on the planet would, is not the way a Christian would explain the deity of Christ. I think it's very interesting, and I'm quite pleased. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and tell you guys why. Here's something that's happened in completely different realms. So if you look at when physics took off, right? So at first, physics, science is taking off, and everyone's a Christian. Then you eventually start getting to non-Christians over time. Start getting to non-Christians. Then you have atheists and agnostics and generic theists, and everyone gets involved in science over time. Now everyone's involved. Everyone, Hindu scientists, Muslim scientists, atheists, they're scientists from all backgrounds now. In the 20th century, when physics is really taken off, so you're getting Einstein and Niels Bohr and all these guys, Heisenberg and all these guys. As people are figuring all these things out, they start saying really interesting stuff. And these guys are talking about God. And when you point out, hey, Einstein believed in God. Look, this guy believed in God. This guy believed in God. It gets pointed out they're not talking about God like you think. They're not talking about this personal God who you can pray to and performs miracles and so on. A lot of these guys are saying God, but they don't mean what you think about God. So stop calling them theists. And so you have both these kind of reactions. So on the one hand, you got physicists saying, yeah, there's something here. And they would say interesting things like at bottom, there's no matter. It's just like spirit or soul that is somehow maintaining everything. You like, as a theist, you'd be like, whoa, that's what I believe, right? That God is upholding and sustaining everything in existence. So with me, it's like, okay, so Einstein believes in some sort of God, but it's not the personal God of Christianity. It's not a personal God that you would believe in. As far as the personal God, we'd consider him like an atheist, but he's not an atheist. He believes in something. With me, it's like, okay, what is his field of expertise? He's not a historian. He's not a theologian. He's a physicist. It's like, here's this realm of all of reality. He's looking at one little piece of it. He's looking at one little piece of reality and concluding, actually, there's something behind that, what I'm looking at right now. And so he's not getting the full picture of what's behind everything. He's getting what is behind this sort of little realm of physics. What would you expect? The historical Jesus? You're in the wrong realm. You're not getting at the historical Jesus by looking at the laws of physics. You're getting something else. But what I find interesting is that when he examines this little realm, physics, and they conclude, oh yeah, there's God behind there, and you say, oh, but they don't believe in. Okay, yeah, because that's a completely different realm. I find it interesting that people, when they really, really look very deeply into one narrow little field, they get exactly what you would expect them to get in that field. In other words, you're saying, hey, as a Christian, if someone is only looking at physics, what would they find? You're not going to find Jesus rose from the dead. That's not what you're going to find. What would you find if Christianity is true in that realm? Well, you're going to find, oh yeah, there's something upholding and sustaining the universe. And well, great. That's exactly what we would expect you to find in that realm. But you could do that in other areas. And so one is psychology. You're studying the human mind. If Christianity is true, what are you going to find there? If we're created in the image of God and so on, what are you going to find there? You're not going to get to the bottom of physics. You're not going to get to the bottom of all kinds of things in Christianity. What you would get is like, your mind is kind of made for this. It's like your mind is, you are the image of God, and your mind is ultimately made for something bigger than, eating or drinking or something like that. And you've got Jordan Peterson, who's an expert in the field. And if you were to ask, hey, if Christianity is true, what is a guy who really, 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 really looks at the human mind going to ultimately derive at? Something along the lines of we're created in the image of God. Something along those lines, like psychologically, we are made for this sort of thing. And it's exactly what he finds. And I don't know why you'd be like, oh, but he's getting all this other stuff. Like it's not the orthodox way and all this. Oh, he's not an expert in anything. He's an expert in one little thing. And what he finds in that one little area is what you would expect him to find in that one little area, if all the rest is true. And so I'd be happy for it. What are you battling about?
But here's the problem. What I see...
always got to focus on the problem. Freaking agnostics, man. But go ahead.
Like, when I heard that Jordan Peterson said, and Jesus is God, I saw that lots of people were getting very excited about this and were making thumbnails like that. And
who makes thumbnails like that, man? Jordan Peterson shocks everyone with the shocking truth about Jesus' shocking divinity.
And people were like, yeah, Jordan Peterson said Jesus is God. And lots of people were saying that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. This is kind of... it's not meant to be criticism, or maybe it is. I don't really know at this point. But so when it comes to people like Jordan Peterson, for example... people will immediately start rejoicing when that person says something that is in alignment with your beliefs. But what really is the difference between, and yes, you explained, he's approaching it from a different background. He's coming at it from a different background. He's exploring his expertise in a different place and so on. But if somebody said, I believe in God, and I believe Jesus is God, but then also continued later on, but I also believe in an evil force that is equally mighty, and I also believe that there are lesser gods, and so on. Would this be something to be happy about from a Christian perspective, from an not capital letter Orthodox, but a traditional Christian perspective? This would not be something to celebrate, right? This would not be something to be happy about, because this would just explaining somebody being Gnostic, somebody having a Gnostic or a dualist point of view, or some strange different kind of worldview, but still acknowledging that Jesus is God and that there is a God and so on. But if it's Jordan Peterson who says something like this, then it's a cause to celebrate. It looks like.
Yeah, and there are actually real world parallels to what you're saying as far as we brought it up before. I've heard from missionaries in India, and I've heard from Hindus as well, that it's actually comparatively easy to get a Hindu to accept Jesus than it is to get, like an atheist or something like that. And you can go preach Jesus to a Hindu and say, hey, Jesus, he performed all these miracles. He died on the cross. He rose from the dead. So believe in Jesus. Believe in Jesus. And the Hindu go, okay, cool. Yeah, I believe in Jesus.
All right.
And you say,
I will add Jesus to my gods.
Yeah, you say, well, yay. What you find out if you look a little closer is they've added Jesus to the various beings they believe in and so on. And so they don't have a problem. Hindus don't have a problem frequently with believing in Jesus. They have a problem with the exclusivity, right? It's believe in just Jesus, not all these other gods. That's what they would have a problem with. So that's sort of a similar issue. Like, if a Hindu who believes in multiple gods says, hey, I believe in Jesus too, do you get happy over, I believe in Jesus? Do you get happy when he also believes in a bunch of other things that would conflict with Christianity? And what I think you can say is you can believe in, you can have a kind of concept of that's an improvement. If you've accepted Jesus as a divine figure, that's an improvement over not believing in Jesus, even though there's other things. And with Jordan Peterson, it's like Jordan Peterson, I have to say, is in a different category. It's, you've got all these issues where he's not sure of what the status of these various things are. He's not saying, hey, Christian, you're wrong, but he's not saying, hey, Christian, you're right about these other things. But the fact that he gets to a point where I have no clue what this means or what happens here or how this works, but I believe that guy walked out of a tomb. And I believe that guy is God. God died, rose from the dead, walked out of a tomb. Even if he is not clear on a ton of other things, I have to say that's cool. Because again, I'm thinking in terms of,
fair enough.
You're not an expert in all these fields. You're not a theologian. You're not a historian. You're not any of these things. You're a psychologist. What are you getting at through your examination of religion from the perspective of a psychologist? And he starts applying principles of psychology and just getting closer and closer to the gospel.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I like that.
Fair
that.
enough.
But it's a thing where I get everyone's perspective. I get people who cheer, and when people are like, he doesn't mean what you think he means, I get that too. Which is why, by the way, we want to do this live stream. We want people to understand what he actually means when he says this thing, so that you can decide whether you should celebrate it or not celebrate it, depending on your own perspective.
I mean, I prefer Christian Jordan Peterson to atheist Jordan Peterson, I would say. I mean, I prefer a Jordan Peterson who very much talks in line with a God-believing person, and a Christian-ish person. I prefer that to him going into the direction of, well, what is God really? God is something that we invented, and it's all nonsense. Like, I wouldn't prefer that. He's good the way that he is.
We can all agree everything is worse with atheism.
Yeah.
Take a couple super chats, and then we'll look at that. So guys, that was all build up to for the actual clip, because we wanted some idea of what Jordan Peterson thinks about these various issues. And then we're going to check out the clip of him saying Jesus is God, and then his explanation, which immediately follows, because he explains what he means, and his explanation is not one that any Christian would use to explain the deity of Christ. And yet he's affirming the deity of Christ, but for a completely different reason than most people would use. White Trash Panda says, the top G is going to be the bottom B in prison. I've been to prison, and I looked up Romanian prisons. They're significantly worse than U.S. prisons, most U.S. prisons. I actually don't know, because here's the thing: if couple possibilities, he could walk in there with a ton of money. In other words, he's still got millions of dollars and so on that he's getting from all his fans and so on, and could walk in there and throw money around. Right? In that case, he could buy a gang of people to protect him. That's one thing, but they would not actually really be loyal to him. They just be hired thugs, sort of. So that's one possibility. Another possibility is, if he doesn't do that and he just goes in acting like top G, someone is gonna knock all his freaking teeth out real quick, like, because these guys do not put up with that. There will be other people who you'll have people who their teenage daughter was groomed by some pimp back in the day, and they're not gonna like Andrew Tate for being the same sort of, for reminding them of that sort of person. With that said, when he was talking about his experience in jail, he was saying that he's being very nice to everyone and talking to everyone and so on. So he may actually know how much he needs to dial things down to not get the crap beat out of him. So anyway, it's multiple possibilities. But he should be asking some people about Romanian prison and how to. He probably is already. He probably is having all sorts of people tell him how he needs to act in Romanian prison. Chloe says the UK is depraved with the likes of Lily Phillips and that other blank of Babylon. I'm convinced the pagans of the UK love the depraved cult. Yeah, Chloe. In a previous live stream, I pointed out that it's that what you'll have Muslims saying is, what you don't find in the Quran and the Hadith talking about us just going up and grooming these girls and so on. We would conquer them and then take them as captives, but we haven't conquered them, and therefore it's like, yeah, there's a reason for that. The Muslims couldn't have comprehended a group or a tribe or anything that is just going to hand over their daughters to you, right? They have no concept of that. The pagans would have fought for their daughters. That's why you had to conquer them first if you wanted their daughters. So you conquered them, then you took your daughters. No one there has any concept of people just, here, take our daughters. Oh yeah, and if anyone complains and the father tries to protect his daughter, we'll stop the father, not you. You just do everything you want. They wouldn't have comprehended that. And therefore, like, in this weird sense, like, Great Britain is more pagan than the most pagan people we've ever heard of in terms of like, just here, take our daughters. You want our daughters? We'll give you our daughters. Everyone take our daughters. Yeah, just do whatever you want with them. It's disgusting. So, yeah, bad place. It's weird looking down and seeing intellectual AP who looks like an author. You look like some great writer and so on. You should write a book and just read from your own book and quote your own book with those glasses.
I am writing one right now. Actually.
Dope. What's it on? Is it your biography?
No, a different one. I found a nice system to get my book together, which I already had most of my notes on, but everything was kind of messed up because I forgot, because I dropped it at some point, and then it's all just messed up of different notes. The outline is there, but every single chapter has different notes lying everywhere and so on. But I found a way to with the help of an AI system, to just say, hey, here's my stuff, put it all together, and give it to me once again.
So AP's AI book may be out in the near future.
It's not an AI book.
It's an AI book. You said, hey, AI, here's a couple of videos where I've said things. Now make an entire biography of me.
That's actually a good idea.
Of course it's a good idea. Josh says, I love you guys and Jesus Christ, Yeshua Akbar. Yes, that is true. Hey, you guys read about halal ham situation in Malaysia? I have not. You heard about that? Halal ham? What do you mean, like turkey ham?
No.
Look up halal ham, Malaysia.
Halal ham, Malaysia.
Michelle says, I think IP comes across as EO4. Send the link. One, Jane, his link for the T. I have one. What is this, AP?
Across as EO, Eastern Orthodox. And what's the other thing mean?
I don't know what the 4 means.
I don't know. I can't comment on that. Michelle. Powerful.
IP comes across as Eastern Orthodox. Yeah, I don't know what the rest of that means. Yeah, I've not asked IP, so I have no further information than anyone else. But yeah, that's how he seems to me too.
IP2.
Ecclesiastes argues everything under the sun is vanity. The Hebrew word for vanity, meaning smoke or vapor. Hedonism is vapor, but so is working toward flourishing because everything ends. God is what justifies doing anything.
Vapor wave. That's what Ecclesiastes is about. Vanity of vanities. Everything
all we are is dust in the wind. What would it take to get that Antichrist known as Mike Winger on the show? Ouch. That's pretty brutal. We don't want him on the show. It's funny that the first time I heard about Mike Winger was D Wood in a video recommending to follow him. Watch for the proof. There's no proof.
What?
If I do that, if I say, hey, go follow Mike Winger, it's a trap, ladies and gentlemen. I'm messing with you to test you.
It is funny though, because he used to have significantly more subscribers than he did, right? And then he surpassed you because he's cool.
He surpassed me because I gave away my channel. Notice D. Wood, self-sacrificial individual, tries to help other people. And then, of course, so since I gave away my channel, then he got more subscribers because he kept growing while I was starting over. And then what happens? Then look at me. I'm the greatest YouTuber of all time. Look, I'm so powerful. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Yahya's Hot Lip says, why Muslims across history talk to and about Muhammad like he's omnipresent and godly, e.g. when Berbers or Turks cried to Muhammad when defeated by Christians. They've all, as far as we have records, they've always treated Muhammad as semi-divine. They say they don't, but they obviously do.
You know what's funny? So I talked about this several times in the past, and I still think that if one day in the future I was to make a video, if I made short videos, it would be very nice to make a video about the whole Baphomet topic and how Muhammad and Islam actually inspired the Baphomet character, which many people are actually falsely perceived to be a genuine representation of a demon or devil or something like that. But this is one of those things. The background of the whole Baphomet figure, which is this goat figure with the horns and all that, the statue actually goes back to apparently a French author during one of the Crusades, observing the Crusaders fighting against the Muslims, and as the Muslims are shouting and invoke the name of Muhammad, he writes down that the Muslims, which he describes as the Turks, and the Turks were shouting for their own god Baphomet. He writes in his writings. So this is from a French perspective. They used to refer to him as Mahomet or Bahomet or Baphomet, and that is where the name Baphomet comes from. where I guess through some misidentification or mishearing or something happening there, this whole name of Baphomet based on Muhammad comes into existence, which then later on among Western Christians who were significantly more isolated and distant from the Muslim world. It's not like today. The average Western Christian had no idea what Muslims are and what they do and what they believe in and so on, because they didn't have the internet, or it was down. They couldn't really look it up. So they didn't have Wikipedia back then either, as far as I know, like in the 12th century and things like that. So they didn't know what Muslims believe in, and they had these ideas that those people over there on the other side of the world worship this thing called Baphomet and Mahomet. Which is what they also at some point then started interpreting as a cult demon or the devil, which some underground cults worship and so on, from which this Baphomet character turned into an occult thing much later on over the centuries, and some occultists actually started adopting this character into as an object of worship, despite knowing that it goes back to a fictional being, and so on. So, long story short, the whole Baphomet thing was inspired by Muslims shouting the name of Muhammad when they were fighting the Crusaders. I'm totally serious. I'm not joking.
A video titled something like that, "Shocking Origins of Baphomet," with a picture picture of his demon head on there.
Or something
that
like,
would do well. That would be what we in the YouTube world call an evergreen video, meaning it's not just some hot story that just popped up. People are going to be clicking on that for a long time, and it's something where it's interesting enough information that people would share that. People would share that widely.
They would.
So, do it.
Or how Muhammad became Baphomet.
Do it. That too. How Muhammad became Baphomet, and then have a big Muhammad cartoon on one side, and then an arrow, and then the demon Baphomet.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Absolutely. It depends on whether you want to keep it a mystery or not. And it's still a mystery. How did this become that? And even the title would be surprising. Like, wait, what? Those are connected? Huh? Let me click on this. So,
most people don't know this, and I look for videos, and I can't find videos on this kind of stuff. Like, there are very few sources that actually talk about this, including some historians who apparently don't think it is that important to talk about it. I don't know why.
Pretty important.
This is also why I in the past, quite a while ago, I got this Baphomet statue, just because I wanted to have it and talk about it and talk about how, this seems like a scary thing, but this
and
actually
worship
comes from
it.
its understanding. Yeah, and I wanted to worship it on screen, but then one day it just fell down here and broke, and it was overnight. Like I was gone, and I came back to my office space, and I see that it is on the ground. I didn't
Nice.
touch it. I wasn't around it. It was on the ground, and it was broken. The
Nice.
horn was broken, and it was a big one. The horn was broken, and one of the wings was broken. I was like, what? How did this happen? And what I did was, I thought, I'm not going to order the same thing, so I ordered a new one, a smaller one, like half the size or so. It arrived. I took it with me, wanted to place it next to me on the table. I touched the horn, and it broke off immediately. And I thought this is really, really weird. So if I want to invoke something, if I want to think about this, and if I want to think that there is something here at play, this would be the time. So, but anyway, I had those here, and then at some point, my wife, apparently, as she was checking things, thought, I don't want to have this in the house anymore, so she just threw it in the trash.
Nice.
Very
smart,
based.
smart. Good work all around there. Cameron Schwartz says, JP convinced me not to be atheist. Also, other good news, Pierce Morgan said today he'd interview Tommy Robinson when he's out of prison. Awesome.
Based.
Awesome.
Really?
Awesome.
You did? That's good.
That'd be good.
That's good.
D. Wood, here we go. D. Wood is a 2 out of 10 at best. Raymond Ibrahim is the beast of Islamophobia. Coptic Christians got the protein powder. 100. Yep. I need to check with Raymond Ibrahim and say, hey, Raymond, people say I'm just a 2 out of 10, whereas you're super based. What protein powder do I need so I can be as strong as you? Hey, that would be a funny idea if he's like, if he's doing his theology videos, but he's ending them with like, and if you're wondering which protein supplements I use, the link's in the description box. And he's like, he's got his own line of protein supplements if you want to be a super alpha Islamophobe. Don't be like those little weak Islamophobes. Be a super strong Islamophobe like me. Get my new protein powder. That'd be awesome.
Powerful.
If you got it, you got to use it, man. I absolutely loathe the JP standard for who is qualified to speak as an authority. David and AP for Islam, and DR. What's that? DR Taylor for Catholic. No, Dr. Taylor for Catholics. He is shallow.
You really just said, what is DR?
What is D? Well, he capitalized both of them instead of just the D.
That's true.
Yeah, so I'm confused. Is that DR?
I think it's saying Taylor Swift for Catholics and David and AP for Islam. Yeah.
No. Since all people are evil and can become toxic, should we avoid people or love our enemies, tolerate and forgive all sins? Yeah, all people are sinners and so on. They're also created in the image of God. So do the best you can with that. AP Mach 6 Act or March 6 Act? Justly show mercy, walk humbly with God. Oh, okay. Here we go.
What is that? MCH6, what does that mean?
Micah.
Oh, okay. That's funny. Really?
Have you seen Vito Vid's video called Jordan Peterson, a taxi driver? What? Very well done. Vito Vids. Pretty funny. Vito, is he still posting? I haven't heard from him in a while. He used to do awesome.
Very
rarely.
He used
to do awesome Zucker Nike impressions and stuff.
Very rarely.
If all cultures and all times and places have been religious, then by hypothesis, it is part of our genetic endowment. Atheists are an aberration. You even have atheists who acknowledge that we're sort of wired to be religious. And that's part of the reason that when you have like widespread atheism, it starts functioning like a religion. There were even atheist church services, and they would have atheist reverse baptisms and stuff where you get unbaptized and so on. But I mean, notice that's all like very religious in nature.
Micah 6:8 says, He has shown you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, to act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God.
Yeah, that's you saying that you have a concept of justice.
Interesting.
Take one or two more, and then we'll jump into this final clip. Jordan isn't necessarily a heretic. I hear him. He's talking about in that symbolic talk, for real. We're trying to get out of Plato's cave, homie. Yeah, that's why I get it. I mean, it's, you know, it's like if an atheist says, "Hey, I believe in God, but I don't believe anything more." Okay, you're moving in the right direction. You're moving in the right direction. So no, I don't get ticked off by really anything Jordan Peterson says, except unless it's like, "Hey, get a pen pal. That'll solve the Middle East problem." It's like, okay, now you don't know what you're talking. You are way out of your realm. You are way out of your sphere.
This is how Socrates used to talk. For real, we're trying to get out of Plato's cave, homie.
That's what it is. That's exactly that's you can see that in the Greek. Time to live out that Jesus is God, JP. That's good.
Yep.
I don't know. He's doing a pretty decent job. D Wood, ask AP what his favorite Wagner opera is. Let me guess. Gute Dämmerung. It ain't over till the fat Dawa lady sings.
I only know two things. I've never listened to an entire piece by Wagner, so I only know the.
Wait, so you got ba 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 ba, right? You got that. But then there's who's the
Rise of the Valkyrie? Yeah.
Is it the same? Is it the same thing with the? Who's that? Is that the same guy? What?
Now I'm confused. I thought so. Yes.
That's the
That is.
Also sprach Zarathustra or something.
Yeah, that is Zarathustra. Yeah.
Is that Wagner? Is that Wagner? I don't remember. I just remember it's some German. But I mean,
Yeah.
if it's a German opera guy, you got to go with Wagner.
Of course it is. No, it's not.
What? Who is it?
That is actually
That's
Strauss. That's Strauss.
Yeah, he's the wannabe Wagner. He's the wannabe Wagner. He's
Strauss.
Yeah, he's a Wagner wannabe, but he made some dope stuff. Sucks when all these Germans come up with stuff that you have to use because it's dope.
Strauss.
Oh man. Hang on. I was about to click on the next video, and then Ayatollah said, "The call to adventure pierces the veil of the archetypal behaviors that we engage in, whether they be in our working life, with family, etc. This simplifies behavioral patterns we create." Hey, I feel like I had a better Jordan Peterson impersonation than normal right there. I don't know what everyone thinks. Was that better? Was that better than normal?
Mm-hmm.
Seemed to have briefly gotten my groove. All right, let's go ahead and check out this final clip, ladies and gentlemen. Then we'll get the last of these super chats. So here,
Yeah, those thing Nietzsche. Nietzsche had his book on Das sprach Zarathustra, and then also Strauss had a whole piece on it. So it's both. Both is the right answer.
very based, very based. All right, Peterson.
Also sprach Zarathustra.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So here is the extended. Lots of people have seen the short clip of Peterson affirming the deity of Christ. Now we're going to get the extended clip where he explains what he means.
This is an interesting question. It's a very direct one, but I would love just an answer because I haven't got clarity on this. What is it you believe? What God is it that you believe in? I've heard you talk about this sort of substrate idea and such, but in a simple way that I can understand, do you believe in a man in the sky God? Do you believe in it's a
Well,
force?
that's not as primitive.
It's kind of funny because he says, I don't have clarity on this. I want to know what God you believe in, but I don't think Jordan Peterson has tremendous clarity on what he believes on this issue, as he would gladly acknowledge very frequently. But let me back up because it's very interesting when
I don't know what you mean by clarity.
Yeah, very interesting what Stephen asks here, because he said, "Are you believing in like a man in the sky?" And then what's Jordan going to say? And he said, "That's not as terribly. It wouldn't be as terribly weird as you think, given what human beings are." So let me back this up a little bit.
About this sort of substrate idea and such, but in a simple way that I can understand, do you believe in a man in the sky God? Do you believe in it's a
Well,
force?
that's not as primitive a conceptualization as the atheists would have you believe.
What is it you believe?
Well, there isn't anything more complex in the known universe than a human brain.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want a model for reality as such, like proclaiming that it has something akin to the structure of the human psyche is not an absurd claim, given that that is the most complex thing by far that we know of. by far.
So what is it you believe?
That little interesting point there. Like, hey, when we kind of think of God as something like us minus like the physical body and so on, from an atheistic perspective, you'd say, okay, you're just taking a model for yourself and like saying, okay, whatever created us is like us. And that was one of the, I think it was Ludwig Feuerbach, who said, this is like centuries ago. I think it was Ludwig Feuerbach who said, hey, if horses could come up with their concept of God, it would be a horse God. And if other creatures could come up with a concept of God, it would be like that. It would be like them. And that's just what human beings do. Whereas from a Christian perspective, you think, wait, we're created in the image of God. So whatever God is, we're kind of closest to that. And therefore, it's kind of not a terrible starting point to sort of take us as beings that have minds and intellects and so on and saying, okay, we understand ourselves better than we're going to understand God. So how do you get to an understanding of God? Okay, let's take, the parts of ourself that we understand, strip away things that are not like that would not be like God. So like, physical body and things like that, strip away all that and then strip away any sort of limitations. And that would be, that's kind of what kind of the best we could do. So in other words, if you're starting from an atheistic perspective, you have, first there's nothing, and then you get life, and then you eventually get to human beings, and then human beings are somehow wired to want to believe in something beyond themselves, and so they invent a concept of the deity, and they make something like themselves just really way more powerful. From a Christian perspective, no, God starts with God. God created everything, but God creates human beings to reflect his nature somehow. So you are something special, and it is important to think about yourself and then to subtract the limitations when you're thinking about God. So Peterson points that out. It's like, hey, atheists like to make fun of, hey, you're making a God like you. Oh, how convenient. When that's not the sick burn you might think it is. If we're specifically made to be God's image in this world.
Well, I've been explaining it.
But I mean,
I did say, I mentioned something which we skipped over very quickly because I introduced it too rapidly. The postmodernists figured out that we live in a story. But then they leapt to a faulty conclusion of two forms, well, three. There's no uniting story. That was one of their conclusions. In fact, the definition of postmodernism is skepticism of meta-narratives. There's no uniting story. It's like, well, that's a stupid theory because there's no union. So what? There's just diversity. Well, we worship diversity now in this utterly foolish manner. There's no difference between diversity and war. Without a uniting narrative, there's nothing but war. So, no, that's not going to work. Wrong. Hedonistic self-gratification. There's Michel Foucault for you to a T. It's like, what?
Messed up stuff. Do whatever you want. Do whatever feels good.
Is that wrong? Why can't people just do what they want with whoever they want all the time? Because it defeats itself and quickly. It's not a sustainable game. If it's all about you and your whims, I don't want to be anywhere near you. And that won't be so good for you. That's not going to work. Power. That's really where the postmodernists landed with their, what would you say, temptation to turn towards Marx. It's all about power. It's like, first of all, that's probably a confession, if that's what you believe. And second,
dude, did you hear that sick burn, AP? He said, he's talking about the postmodernists who eventually, because you can be postmodernist and okay, so there's no like overarching story that connects all the other stories and so on. And then what do you kind of do with that? And some people go in different directions, and he says, some of them go in the direction of like power. Power is what matters. And he says, if you say that, it sounds like you're making a confession to me. You're basically confessing what you care about is power, and then you're trying to make an ideology that fits with what you want to kind of justify what you want. Anyway, back up for a couple seconds.
It's all about power. It's like, first of all, that's probably a confession, if that's what you believe. And second, no, it's not. Try tyrannizing your wife and see how well that works for you. Try tyrannizing yourself and see how successful you are. Power's not the game.
If you don't understand what he's talking about there, ladies and gentlemen, with why is he talking about tyranny? If you say power is like the ultimate good or something, that it's not even the ultimate good. It's it's sort of what we should be aiming at or something like that. Then okay, the ultimate power would be a tyrant. And so should you be acting like a tyrant? And so is this going to work? I'm going to act like a tyrant towards my wife. I'm going to act like a tyrant towards the people around me and so on. That's not going to work. That can't be the main thing. It just can't be.
Okay, what's the game? What's the story? I mentioned earlier, it's voluntary self-sacrifice.
That's the first thing you need to understand as far as what Jordan Peterson is talking about Jesus being God. What's the real thing? What is the real noble direction you should be taking? Back it up, because this is connected to what he says about Jesus.
Here, it's voluntary self-sacrifice. Right, you offer yourself up in the service of something higher. That's the basis of society. That's the basis of psychological stability. The Christian insistence is that that's the basis of the world.
I'm going to replay that part because this is all connected to what he's about to say.
Self-sacrifice.
Self-sacrifice.
Right, you offer yourself up in the service of something higher.
Offer yourself up in the service of something higher. I know I'm just repeating him. You need to hear this like 15 times.
That's the basis of society.
Basis
That's
of society?
The basis of psychological stability.
Basis of psychological stability. This is why he heads in these directions. He's examining all of this from the perspective of a psychologist. This is what you need in your head. This is what makes society works. This is what gives you mental health. This is what solves the problems in the world. Voluntary. Here are all these things I want, and you are sacrificing certain things for greater things, for better things. And that's how a marriage is going. Keep in mind, it's not saying sacrifice everything you want. Sacrifice certain things for things that are better or more important. And he's saying that's how a society would work. That's what will give you a good mental health. That is what will help your family to work. And then he says, and for the Christianity, that's all of reality. Why? Why? Hang on. Let me back it up because I want everyone to hear it again. I won't interrupt here.
Game. What's the story? I mentioned earlier, it's voluntary self-sacrifice. Right, you offer yourself up in the service of something higher. That's the basis of...
You giant dope. Chief Keef over here in the chat says, like suicide? That's not offering yourself up in the service of something higher. That's ending yourself so that you don't have to ever deal with anything. Do not conflate those two. It's an insult. It's an insult to all of reality.
Self-sacrifice. Right, you offer yourself up in the service of something higher. That's the basis of society. That's the basis of psychological stability. The Christian insistence is that that's the basis of the world.
I'm going to ask you again because I want to be clear.
Here we go.
What is the God you believe in?
I think that the claim that Christ is the embodiment of the prophet and the laws, I think that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
That's complicated. It's very...
Did everyone hear the question? What's the God you believe in? I think that Christ is the embodiment of the law and the prophets. Say, hey, wait, what did I just ask you? Hang on.
What is the God you believe in?
I think that the claim that Christ is the embodiment of the prophet and the laws, I think that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
That's complicated. It's very, very complicated. But I think it's true.
so you believe that Jesus was
God?
God?
Yeah.
And we'll end it right there. No, we won't. We're gonna look at him explaining it. You catch that, everyone? So anyway, that's what everyone played the little short clip of him saying. That Jesus is God. Before that, and it's really important to understand what he's saying, and it's not something you should be like, oh, he doesn't mean exactly what I mean. It's actually interesting what he means. It's like the Christian idea is built into the fabric of reality. It's built into your psychology. It's part of you. It's embedded in how societies work and how families work and how you have mental health, because it is part of reality. And what? So Jesus is the embodiment of that, and He's God. It's not exactly clear what he means by Jesus is God. He's going to explain it. It's still not going to be clear, but you're starting to get a picture. This is God, and this is what God does in Christianity. And oh my goodness, that's what works, and that's what society needs, and that's what fixes the ills of society. This is all connected. It's one coherent whole. So
yeah.
I think if you
let me back it up, and
understand
then we'll
what
hear his
that- I think
explanation.
that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
That's complicated. It's very, very complicated, but I think it's true.
so you believe that Jesus was
God?
God?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you understand what that means, that it's indisputable. I'll give you a brief
All right. So
explanation of why.
Well,
that's the thing. This is the issue. When you ask Jordan Peterson a question about God, do you believe Jesus was God?
let
He
him
says,
give you
"Yeah,
the quick. Let
yeah."
him give you the quick answer, and then end it, ladies and gentlemen. End it, because he's only going to confuse you with what comes afterwards.
I know. That's the thing. When you ask him the question, he says, "Yeah." And it's like, "Oh, okay, good, fantastic." So we have the answer. But then, as soon as he says
Wrong.
as soon as he goes on and says, because if you understand what that means, oh, well, here we go.
There we go. Here we go. It's awesome, though. It's awesome, ladies and gentlemen. This is awesome stuff. Back it up slightly, but he's gonna give his explanation here.
Yeah. I think if you understand what that means, that it's indisputable. I'll give you a brief explanation of why.
Here we go.
Christ takes the sins of the world onto himself. So that means all the problems that there are his problems. Right. Okay, so
I don't mean to I will probably rewind this but guys, this is really hard to get your mind around. I still don't have my mind fully around it, but I did watch what led up to this, and you just saw sort of you just saw part of it, but you've got all these problems and all these competing goals in society, and what actually makes things work and solves the problems and so on. It's this voluntary self-sacrifice. And Jesus takes all the problems, all this. He takes it all. So just wanted to where he's going.
The idea there is that there's no difference between making that assumption and then actually beginning to address those problems. And there's no difference between that which best addresses the problems of mankind and the divine. Those are the same.
You've got the divine, Jesus, and you've got what actually deals with the problems of mankind. And you've got Jesus, he did exactly what deals with the problems of mankind. So you've got the divine, you've got what actually solves the problems of mankind. It's all tied together. Let me back up slightly there.
Addresses the problems of mankind and the divine. Those are the same thing. And I can't see how that can be otherwise, because the contrary hypothesis would be that you would adapt best to your life by avoiding things that are difficult and terrifying. And no one believes that. And so the pattern of the passion, this is the voluntary self-sacrifice issue taken to its extreme. The pattern of the passion is the decision to voluntarily confront and welcome anything that happens to you, no matter what it is. And that's a terrible thing to ask or endeavor to undertake. But, well, the alternative is to shrink away. Well, the spirit of shrinking away is the divine. It's like, I don't think so. Like that's preposterous. The spirit of unlimited courage? Well, that's not a bad start for a definition of what constitutes the divine. The highest possible value.
This is
the highest possible value. So what would the spirit of the divine be? Something that shrinks away from problems, or something that takes them head on? And what could basically take on all of them head on? Not you, not me, but Jesus did. Something in that ballpark is what he's getting at. I just want to play his sort of explanation again for anyone, because it can be difficult to get your mind around. And plus, I want to hear it again. Let's go and see.
Complicated, but I think it's true.
So you believe? I could ask you again, because I want to be clear. Is what is the God you believe in?
I think that the claim that Christ is the embodiment of the prophet and the laws, I think that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
That's complicated. It's very, very complicated, but I think it's true.
So you believe that Jesus was
God?
God?
Yeah. I think if you understand what that means, that it's indisputable.
So he's an expert in one area, psychology. Here's everything I've learned about human psychology and what brings about mental health and health within a marriage, within a society, and so on. The most important fundamental thing, voluntary self-sacrifice. And it's like, for the Christian view, that is like reality, because that's what God did. And Jesus is like the ultimate embodiment of that. And he's the one who demonstrates the courage to take on everything and all the problems. Who is this? Who is this? He says God. Let's go ahead.
I'll give you a brief explanation of why.
You like that too, right?
Christ takes the sins of the world onto himself. So that means all the problems that there are his problems. Right. Okay, so the idea there is that there's no difference between making that assumption and then actually beginning to address those problems. And there's no difference between that which best addresses the problems of mankind and the divine. Those are the same thing. And I can't see how that can be otherwise, because the contrary hypothesis would be that you would adapt best to your life by avoiding things that are difficult and terrifying. And no one believes that. And so the pattern of the passion, this is the voluntary self-sacrifice issue taken to its extreme. The pattern of the passion is the decision to voluntarily confront and welcome anything that happens to you, no matter what it is.
It's kind of interesting, because he's saying, hey, no one believes that the path we should be following is avoid everything, avoid all harm, and so on. And yet, that's how people actually live. That's how people actually live, trying to avoid the problems and so on, trying to shrinking from them. And he's saying, but that's not what actually works. That's not what works for you in your mental health. That's not what works for you in a family. That's not what works for you in society and so on. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. And why? You're not made like that. That is not the actual. And do you think that God could basically be shrink away from everything, or would God be ultimately confront everything? Okay, well, that's exactly what happened in Christianity. And anyway, interesting stuff. What?
I'm gonna mute you for a second because I'm going to listen. I'm going to read what he says in writing and then try to make sense of it.
Good. I'll go ahead and play this. And then I will take super chats as you figure out what he's saying so you can explain it for us.
That's a terrible thing to ask or endeavor to undertake. But, well, the alternative is to shrink away. Well, the spirit of shrinking away is the divine. It's like, I don't think so. Like that's preposterous. The spirit of unlimited courage? Well, that's not a bad start for a definition of what constitutes the divine. The highest possible value.
The highest possible value. The good at which all goods aim. So, guys, that is the context, and then they talk about a bunch of other things in that discussion as well. Again, the link is in the description box if you want to check out the full. They talk about a ton of interesting stuff. In there. So I recommend watching that if you get a chance. About 2.5 hours. Let's see. Take some super chats while AP reads. Wait a minute. This is D Wood's stream. Why can't we like and comment on super chats? Did YouTube upgrade? Oh, why can we like and comment on super chats? Did YouTube upgrade your That's awesome. Yeah. So people have complained that they couldn't like or comment on super chats. And now now that I'm looking at it, I see it. So that was weird. YouTube had rolled out a new feature where people can like and comment on super chats everywhere except my channel. It did not exist on my channel. And people complained, hey, why don't you do this? I went through all the settings. I could not figure out how to do it. So I had no idea what was going on. But apparently they finally rolled that out to me. I'm an afterthought. Did you figure out what's going on, AP? You still listening? Are you still reading?
I did read it, and I'm kind of getting closer to it. But yeah, Jesus chose to take on all the world's problems.
You're talking about what he said there, or you're looking up his book?
No, I'm reading. I'm actually reading what he said there because I understood
You're
what he
doing
said.
this. We listened to it 17 times, and you
know.
left to read it over and over again.
Yes, I want to just read it and thoroughly have a look at it, at what he said here. Powerful.
Let's see. Wait a minute. This did YouTube upgrade your channel, or did Mossad hack into YouTube? I don't know. It could have been Mossad hacking in there. I don't know, but they did roll out the feature for me. Good stuff. Much love to both of you and Israel from an atheist from Greece. We should all fight for Western values with every means we have. Thank you. And so we shall. The Ayatollah says, Peterson is slowly beginning to realize the significance of the physical act, that something actually happens in physical reality, which is a victory of orthodoxy over Gnosticism. Yeah, I have to say, for AP constantly saying, he's nothing but a Gnostic. He's nothing but a Gnostic. He doesn't have the standard Gnostic views on some things. He acknowledges the significance of the physical. I trained as a scientist and am a Christian. I see God everywhere. Quantum world, yes. Bible, yes. Natural world, absolutely, yes. That's how I see it, Gwyneth. Everywhere. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Matter of fact, I'll even say, like, when I hear an atheist arguing and stuff like that, it's in my head, like, for you to even be making this argument, what do you need? You need a universe. Where'd that come? Where you need a finely tuned universe that supports life. You need actual life. So life, you need you need human consciousness. You need laws of logic. You need objective moral values for the arguments you're using. God shouldn't do this. God shouldn't do that. And so on. You need the ability to communicate ideas. Like everything that I'm hearing from you cries out. God exists, and yet the conclusion you're expecting me to draw from your powerful words is God doesn't exist. And it's like, wait a minute, everything you're saying, all I see is God.
All I see is God.
I've missed the last few streams. I was wondering what your guys' opinion on the ceasefire is. You've probably shared this already. Yep. Not going to go into much detail here. We did a whole live stream on this, which you can't watch, sadly. But yeah, we've had you can check our Twitter and stuff for our ideas. The short version is, as listed, looks like a crap deal. You would have hoped that Hamas would be finished. Oh, AP, I did see something that Netanyahu said. He said,
What did you say?
In his discussions with Trump has agreed to free up vastly more weapons for the future should Israel need it. And I'm saying that because I was saying there's obviously a deal behind the deal. If all of a sudden, after 15 months of saying we are not stopping until Hamas either surrenders and gives us our hostages back, or we get our hostages back and we wipe out Hamas, either way, Hamas is not going to be in charge of anything after this. And all of a sudden, Hamas is going to get to slide and Hamas is going to continue. Why are they making this deal after 15 months of showing no signs of accepting such a deal? And all of a sudden, I said, there's got to be a deal behind the scenes. Hey, do this, and here's the incentive. Here's what we're going to do for you in the future. So and I said that we would start to see what the deal behind the scenes was. We saw part of it. Netanyahu said that Trump is basically going to shower them with weapons for the future if Hamas does not keep their agreement.
You know what's funny? I would really like to have get through to Jordan Peterson and ask him some follow-up questions, because the thing is, yes, I did just listen to this 5,000 times, and yes, I also did then sit down and quickly look at the transcript and read it again and again. But there are just some questions that I have, which it just seems like his explanation that he gave after he said, God, do I believe he's God? Yeah. And let me explain to you why and how. His explanation that he gave doesn't exactly clarify whether he does or does not believe that Jesus is God in the way that you or that the average Christian believes Jesus is God. Right? Would you agree with that, David? Because it seems like I have follow-up questions to that. Like he describes the quality of the divine, and he describes what is the divine and what points at the divine, and based on what reasoning he concludes that Jesus is God, for example. But what he describes there as Jesus taking all of the burden on himself, and this being a glimpse of the divine, is like it's not entirely clear whether he actually believes that this is precisely what Jesus really did and that all of it is actually true, and whether he believes in the in that aspect of it, in the whatever you want to call it, supernatural aspect of it, that Jesus did actually take on all of the sins and all of the burdens of the world, and that he is therefore most certainly, from his perspective, God is most certainly divine, or whether he is just presenting the narrative as it is and acknowledging that according to the narrative he is God. So is he actually acknowledging that he personally believes Jesus is God, or just that he believes that the narrative of Jesus is a narrative of God? And then I also
pause 1 second. His answer to that would be, I don't see a difference.
That's the problem.
Yeah, I agree. So here's the thing. Here's what's interesting. He's not saying Christians are wrong. He's just not saying you're right about certain things. He's saying, here's something, and I believe it, whether it is the established truth of Christianity or it's just a story. I believe in it in either way, and I'm fine. Whether it's true because it's part of the story that we're in, or it's these things actually happen. That's why it was interesting that Alex O'Connor actually got him down to, is someone walking out of the tomb or not? Is someone walking out of the tomb or not? And he tried the entire interview to not answer that. And then finally says, yeah, I think so. And then it was, but I don't know what it means. And he jumbled it up again and stuff like that. But yeah, there's no scenario, AP, where he's going to answer that. I think it's a combination of, I mean, I don't know. I don't know all of reality to be able to say this is the way definitely things are, and here's what happened at this point in the past, and here's exactly what God's likes. Like, that is so far beyond me. I don't know exactly what is like literally true and what is part of a story. But he's saying, like, with him it's so with him it's I don't know. But simultaneously, either way, I'm fine with it. If this is if God actually exists and is like a person, just massively more powerful and so on than we are, and entered into creation, did these things, or if this is a story that we're sort of led to because of what we are and so on, he does acknowledge that it can't just be material. So there's something there. But he doesn't like saying this is the way things actually are. But again, it seems like I don't actually know, and so I don't want to say. But I'm fine either way, because either way, this works, and this is what works from a psychological perspective, something along those lines. But yeah, I just think he's like me in that if he doesn't know something, he doesn't like to say, well, this is the position or something. It's like I don't know. David, Calvinism or Arminianism, David? I don't know. Which view of creation is correct? I don't know. What do you mean? And I'm fine not knowing. What's that? Go ahead.
Do you agree with the 5 solas?
Yeah, kind of. And I kind of agree with some of the objections to some of them. So that's what I mean. I can listen to Arminian and go, Matt got a good case, and I can listen to a Calvinist and go, yeah, you got a good case there. David, which position do you take? I don't know. I kind of agree with some of their arguments, and I kind of disagree with some of their arguments on both of them. And I'm totally fine saying I don't know who's right, and I don't have to pick a side.
That's
kind of that situation.
The other question is, this is the biggest problem to me, is from what he explained and from how he defines the divine or defines God and why he concludes that Jesus is God, the explanation that he gives does not exclude other people besides Jesus from also being God. It's problematic because he described Jesus as taking on the sins and taking on the burdens and all that, and but he doesn't express that he did that because he's God. He doesn't say that he's inherently God, which is why he did that. He doesn't say that that this is what, and he's the only one who did this, which is why he's God. He's just saying that this is what he did, and that is the closest you can get to defining the divine. But okay, are you saying that he is the only one who did this and he is the only one to ever fit this description, or are you just leaving that open and we can suddenly include others too? Now we're getting into the whole thing. Like, are you actually acknowledging that there is that you literally believe in the traditional Christian way that there is one God, and Jesus became, Jesus. Do you believe that he became flesh and so on? Or are you acknowledging that this is just an aspect of the divine and this could apply to more people than just Jesus? It's just none of this is clear at all.
Yep, that's true. If you wanted to take that and go in a sort of Christian-friendly direction with it and like make an argument out of it, I think it would be along the lines of God is the only one who could do that, who could actually take on all. A regular person cannot do that. You have to be extremely special. You have to be a certain kind of being to take all of that. Like, I can't do that, and I'm not sinless, and I can't do that. And so it wouldn't make a lot of sense to say, oh yeah, and this other guy did it too. It's like, wait, what? So I think that would be the direction, but yeah, I don't think he's giving any solid answers on specifically what he means about a lot of these things. I think he's keeping it sort of because he's figuring things out as he goes along and sort of taking people along on his journey, which is why he titled his book "We Who Wrestle with God." Hey, I'm wrestling with all this right now, I'm wrestling.
And what do you mean by Jesus?
Yeah. Let's see. I can't believe I agree with AP, but JP is wrong, because I think AP can agree with this, that the two choices you live by his laws or try an alternative. Can't believe I agree with AP, but JP is wrong, because I think AP can agree with this, that the two, is that choices? Because it says choices, but two choices you live by his laws or try an alternative.
Choose to live by his laws or try an alternative. I'm happy that you agree with me, but I don't entirely understand your super chat.
Clear as well.
Yeah, but yes, I agree.
Hey, here you go. Since Momo is Baphomet, Islam is the real Satanism.
Beast.
That'd be a good title for a video.
Totally
Islam is the real Satanism. Why? Because Muhammad is Baphomet. Oh, hey! After you make your video, you should make another video called "Why Islam is the Real Satanism," and then it's all that because they worship Baphomet Muhammad. I'm Berliner mit Berliner. UC did a funny best of your super chat, some highlights, each like 1 minute. Guys, you can take a look at that, and you've got the channel there. Yeah, I did check out some of that video. It's a long one. I think it's like hour and a half or something like that, but it's a compilation of highlights from various live streams, super chats, and so on. And there are some very funny things in there if you want just short little snippets of things.
I gotta check it out.
Yep, good stuff. David, your evergreen videos are kind of like that Newsweek ad from the 1980s. They're able to look terrorism in the eye and find a way to make it blink. Oh, you haven't seen Making Terrorism Blink.
Yeah, that's what they do.
We are about to have an awesome year. Amazing Jordan Peterson impression. Also, you did a good Arnold a few streams ago. I don't remember that, but I probably did.
I never did an Arnold.
Thanks for inspiring my faith for years, David. It's what we do.
Welcome.
It's what we do. In the Old Testament, God appears in the form of a man known as the angel of the Lord. In the New Testament, that form of a man was born of Mary as a son. It is in this sense that Jesus is the Son of God and God. Yeah, the angel of the Lord. You have don't say that. You don't shake your head because I'll block you. The angel of the Lord in the Old Testament. You have some who disagree, but very common in Christianity view the angel of the Lord as the pre-incarnate Christ. And you've got an agnostic shaking his head, but what do they know? Literally nothing. It's how they define themselves, as not knowing.
I'm not even shaking my head at that.
There you are.
I'm shaking my head at this guy who said I thought
Why
Baphomet
don't you shake your booty? What?
Baphomet was Templars. I said this is.
They did use that. Do you want to explain it to him again?
I can give a very short breakdown. I should really make a video about this. It's funny.
You should.
So the Knights Templars were based people who were the heroes of the Crusaders. In fact, they established an amazing system. They did banking back then. They did such a thing as when Christians, when they go on a pilgrimage, they give their money to the Knights Templars. The Knights Templars had a system established where they take the money and put it into a bank. So
you're saying the Knights Templar were Jews?
Yes,
because Jews control the banks.
and they had a genius system in place where they established a code system which only those in charge in Europe and in Jerusalem could understand, so that the Knights Templar authorities would take the money of the pilgrims who are on their way to Jerusalem and would say, and would then give them a certificate saying, okay, this person deposited this and this much money, and would sign it. They would give this document to the pilgrim. The pilgrim would go to Jerusalem and give this document then to the Knights Templars in Jerusalem, and the Knights Templar would look at it and would be like, okay, yes, you apparently have so much money belonging to you. Here it is. So they had a very, very nice system in place. They were very helpful, and they were at the front of fighting and protecting the Christians and so on. However, later on, during the time of after the Second Crusade, the Knights Templars kind of failed. And the crusade failed. It was a disaster. So the European kings, the European fighters, crusaders, and so on, had to find a victim to blame for the failure. They couldn't blame the Pope. They couldn't blame themselves. They were too far above that. So they had to blame those little guys, those religious guys who were giving their lives to protect Christians. They had to blame the Knights Templars themselves. And they also started creating fake theories about them. The French king in charge had huge debts to the Knights Templars. So he started with this whole conspiracy theory that the Knights Templars were actually a secret cult, a secret organization that stole people's money, which is why they were so rich. That was actually not the reason at all. It's because they had just lots of money, which would be donated to them or deposited to them, and so on. But he started accusing them of various different things, including of worshipping an idol named Baphomet that nobody knows what it looks like. Back then, in the time of the Knights Templars, Baphomet was not a shape. It didn't have a shape. The whole shape of having a goat and all of that only came into existence much later, in the 1800s, by occultists who ascribed a certain shape to Baphomet. So, in the time of that French king, King Louis something, I always forget. He accused the Knights Templars of worshipping Baphomet and of stealing people's money and of actually forming a cult where they secretly worship this thing and do all kinds of weird sexual practices and want to destroy Christianity from inside, and so on. Of course, the Knights Templar were like, "What are you talking about, bro?" So the French king convinced the Pope at the time to shut them down and to bring them to justice. They ambushed and took a bunch of the Knights Templar members and started brutally torturing them and getting false confessions out of them, including by significant, severe, brutal, unbearable torture. The Knights Templars started confessing to indeed worshipping some thing named Baphomet, but they all had completely inconsistent descriptions. Like, some of them would say, "Yeah, it's an idol that has 3 heads. Yeah, it's one that has a cow head. Yeah, it's one that has a goat head. Yeah, it's one with one eye and a long beard," and so on. So these were obviously forced confessions. After they were tortured, they would recant on their confessions, would say, "No, we were tortured. We don't worship anything. We only worship the Lord," and so on. But it was already too late at that point. The French king was hell bent on killing them and taking their money and eradicating his debts. So he went through with it and he executed them, a bunch of them. He also got the Pope's approval to shut them down. Although the Pope later on said, "No, we don't give you the authority to execute them," he said, "Well, I don't really care about that part. I just want to execute them and take their money." So the French king went ahead and had them executed. In fact, you know what happened? It was very funny. This is actually very, very cool. The last Grand Master of the Knights Templar, he was being executed, he demanded that he wished that they turn his stake at which he would be burned toward the Notre Dame, so he could have a very nice view on it as he's dying. And as he was being burned, he called out and said, "I hereby condemn the king and I condemn the Pope for letting this happen. And in the hereafter, they too will die and they will meet me before God and they will answer for their crimes very soon." So this is what he apparently said. And within the next 2 years, both the king and the Pope died. The king died in an accident. The Pope died in some other circumstances. They both died, which is what gave people this weird, very creepy thing like, wait a minute. Did they die because he said they would die to face him? But anyway, after this, people started creating all kinds of weird conspiracy theories about the Knights Templars, including, to this day, some people are saying the Knights Templars are actually this secret organization that is behind everything. It's all nonsense. People fell for some conspiracy theories, just like they do today. That's what they do.
You have someone here, ladies and gentlemen, with an odd obsession with the Knights Templar, telling you that there is no Knights Templar conspiracy. And people always wonder if AP is actually secretly something else. Is he secretly this? Is he secretly that? He is openly acknowledged to having multiple Baphomet statues in the past, and for some reason is the world's leading authority on all things involving Baphomet and the Knights Templar. Broke down the entire group and its history, and then assured you all that it's not a real thing, and they're not behind the scenes pulling the strings. Right? Sure.
It is a funny thing. I actually read a book on the history of the Knights Templars, and also one on specifically on the trial of the Knights Templars, which is why I'm for some reason obsessed with it now.
I bet that's the reason. Hey, Isa Kabir says, some people say I'm like Jordan Peterson. Lol, I think you are significantly more like Jordan Peterson in your thinking than most of us. Isa. So
I think you are Jordan Peterson.
Yes. Have we ever seen Isa and Jordan Peterson in the same room?
No.
Not a bit. From personal experience, I think JP is back to drinking. Look at his flash face. I hate to say it. I believe he's actually sick. He's like got a cold in that interview, and he's probably
he was sick.
I could tell by his voice. He was a bit hoarse throughout that, so I would give the benefit of the doubt and attribute that to him having a cold. And I'm saying that because everyone I know in any close proximity to me has had a horrible cold in the past 2 weeks, including me and including everyone in my family.
He does look like a horse. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I went to a wedding in Russia. Ceremony was at the government civil wedding building. Icons on the walls, just like a church, but not Christian. It was a cliche atheist church environment. Sounds like those Russians. JP tried every hypothesis that could help avoid accepting Christ. Didn't work. True. I love seeing him struggle through it. I'm the same in that regard. Yep. Got to keep at it. Let that be a lesson to everyone. Got to keep going. Keep going. Peterson, Anne says, Peterson seems to think that God is an abstract concept of the highest good, not an actual being. It matters a lot. Jesus lives. I don't know. I think what he's saying is, as far as psychologically, it wouldn't matter if there's like a being. Because remember when the guy said, what are you thinking of God as a person up there? Say, hey, don't think that's too silly. Don't think that's too silly. Human beings are the most sophisticated, complex things we are aware of. So if you're thinking of your own mind, it kind of makes sense to think of God as, it kind of makes sense to start with yourself and then to move on from there. I think what he's saying is whether God is this abstract concept or something like this, or, something like what Christianity is teaching, it wouldn't change. It kind of wouldn't change his view of the relevance of all of this. So I think if you asked him, hey, is God just an abstract concept? I don't think he's going to say God is just an abstract concept. But he seems to be saying, okay, I've kind of narrowed it down to this spectrum of ideas. The truth lies somewhere in here, but I'm not pointing at exactly what the official truth is. It's somewhere in this ballpark, and it ain't atheism, and it ain't Islam. Who's up for starting Petersonism? That would be funny. Calling something Petersonism. Let's do it. Genuine question. Josephus. So Edward says, genuine question. Josephus and Tacitus proves crucifixion historically.
I have a problem with that.
I have a problem with that as well, especially with the rest of the comment. What?
I would say it's evidence, but
I would say evidence too.
Yeah. I'm glad we.
In other words, so you have Josephus and you have Tacitus. Tacitus, Roman historian. Josephus, Jewish historian. They both refer to Jesus' crucifixion. And so what you'd say is that's evidence, but you wouldn't say proof, because the reason you wouldn't say proof is by this time a Christian story could have circulated and these guys could have heard the story and then repeated it and so on.
Precisely.
Yeah. Crucifixion goes hand in hand with resurrection. Being consistent in standard, why did they not mention resurrection also? Is it suspicious? No. If you're a Roman historian who has access to Roman records, what are you going to know about Jesus? He's crucified. That's well known. It's documented fact. It was a public event. Are you going to say resurrection? Well, only if you're going into detail about what Jesus followers believe. He seems to have a very loose understanding of Christianity because of the persecution that broke out under Nero. And he said, hey, there's this weird group, and their guy was crucified, and then it spread a superstition that's going all over the world, and then Nero persecuted them and so on. Josephus, that's more interesting, because you can get that from Josephus. You can get resurrection from Josephus. You just have to, was that originally in Josephus? Because there are suspicions that later scribes actually embellished the story. Now, to be clear, so there are people who believe that none of that was originally in Josephus. That's the minority position. Most people believe Josephus did say something about Jesus. And then you have whether all of it is from Josephus, the entire quote is from Josephus, as it occurs, or was it embellished? So there was something there, and then it got embellished, and then they'll try and figure out what was embellished. Matter of fact, just for kicks, let's go ahead and read these. Let's go ahead and read these two passages, because they're both pretty short. So here's what Tacitus says. Here's what Roman historian Tacitus says. But all human efforts, all the lavish gifts of the emperor, and the propitiations of the gods did not banish the sinister belief that the conflagration was the result of an order. About the fire in Rome. Consequently, to get rid of the report, Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abominations, called Christians by the populace. So saying, hey, there's a big fire. Everyone wanted to assign blame. Nero said, hey, a lot of people don't like these new Christian guys because they're weird. Let's go ahead and blame them. Christus, from whom the name had its origin, so that's Christ, Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our procurators, Pontius Pilate, and a most mischievous superstition, thus checked for the moment, again broke out not only in Judea, the first source of the evil, but even in Rome, where all things hideous and shameful from every part of the world find their center and become popular. Accordingly, an arrest was first made of all who pleaded guilty. Then, upon their information, an immense multitude was convicted, not so much of the crime of firing the city as of hatred against mankind. So he mentions the crucifixion. He says that a superstition around this crucifixion broke out. He doesn't say what the superstition is. What's the superstition? It's got to be something about Jesus being Lord or Jesus rising from the dead. Because someone was crucified, that's not a superstition. That's a known historical fact. So what's he say? This crucifixion had something to do with some superstition that broke out, and then he killed a bunch of people, and then it broke out again. And so he doesn't explain it. So how are you getting in there? Therefore, there's no resurrection. What are you talking about? We have records of the resurrection long before Tacitus. The creed in 1 Corinthians 15 is long before this. So what are you saying? Tacitus, a Roman historian in a different part of the world, doesn't mention something, therefore never happened. That's insanely stupid reasoning. So no, I would not think that's suspicious. Now, again, the passage in Josephus, here's the Testimonium Flavianum. This is the long version. It's still short. About this time there lived Jesus, a wise man, if indeed one ought to call him a man. For he was one who performed surprising deeds and was a teacher of such people as accept the truth gladly. He won over many Jews and many of the Greeks. By the way, little side note. That's part of the reason that people would think, if you wanted to doubt and say, because keep in mind, you don't have an original copy of Josephus. You don't have what Josephus actually handed people. You don't have the original manuscript. You have later manuscripts which are copied by scribes. And so if all you have are later manuscripts copied by scribes, say, okay, could a Christian have embellished this sort of thing? Well, when you're doing that, you start looking for, okay, what are things a Christian may have embellished and what doesn't sound like something a Christian would have said? So when you say a wise man, if indeed one ought to call him a man, that looks like something a Christian may have added. Keep in mind, there are people who think the entire thing is authentic. I'm just saying, if you were looking for things to be suspicious about, this kind of goes both ways. If indeed one ought to call him a man, that's something you might be suspicious about. Does that sounds like a Christian talking, not a first century Jew, right? But then you keep reading, for he was one who performed surprising deeds. Guess what? That's widely acknowledged back then. And was a teacher of such people as accept the truth gladly. Here's the thing. He won over many Jews and many of the Greeks. Would a Christian make that part up? He won over many Jews and many of the Greeks. This sounds like a person who doesn't know much about Jesus, who's hearing about Jesus. It doesn't sound like a Christian's not going to say, yeah, and Jesus went among the Greeks. What are you talking about? That sounds like someone who doesn't know a lot about what he's talking about. So that does sound something like someone who is trying to write something and briefly mention Jesus, but he's just heard some stuff, not like something a Christian's going to add. And so,
good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
And when, upon the accusation of the principal men among us, Pilate had condemned him to a cross, those who had first come to love him did not cease. He appeared to them, spending a third day restored to life. For the prophets of God had foretold these things and 1,000 other marvels about him. And the tribe of the Christians, so-called after him, has still to this day not disappeared. So as you have it in Josephus, he did appear to his followers. So you could say, hey, that part wasn't in there. Maybe that part was embellished or something. But the point is, Edward Nigma, it's just very sloppy reasoning to say, if this was, suppose you say it was embellished, you have sources way before Josephus talking about Jesus dying on the cross and rising from the dead. Someone not mentioning it later does nothing to do that. And if that's your historical method, you'd have to say anytime someone later doesn't mention something, then that calls into question the early records that you have, and that would just be extremely sloppy way to do history, or you would not be accepted by historians.
You called him a historical method.
Yeah. And I want to point everyone out the note on the screen. This is the proof.
What note?
Nothing. It disappeared. I was all about to tell you that JP said Jesus is God. It's like telling Mojab, I don't buy your Allah again. It's getting really ugly for Dawa clouds. Yeah, that's why I said, I don't know if you were here earlier, but I'm going to put those two little clips together and circulate them. Please do a video on Roman Catholicism or recommend material for me to bring my in-laws to faith. Pretty much a 0% chance of me just making a video on Roman Catholicism. I would have to study it, and I'm probably not going to. I'll let Catholics who are interested in showing that Catholicism is true, and others who argue that Catholicism is not true, they can have that discussion. But that's for other channels.
Watch Trent Horn. He has useful videos on that.
Did you notice that the Shroud of Turin is now thought to be 2,000 years old? Much evidence it's Christ's shroud. I do have a video from a couple months ago with Gary Habermas, where I asked Gary Habermas and let him talk for a while, and then I shared my thoughts on that. But you can check that out. And with a narrative that killer, it can only be from God. Oh, I guess you're talking about with Peterson's. Like, hey, if you have this story is so awesome and so perfect and so encapsulates everything. This narrative is so dope, it has to come from God. In your face, AP. Not on topic, but have you heard of the Gen Z Bible?
If it's not on topic, then don't read it.
Too bad. Have you heard of the Gen Z Bible? You can't read it without laughing. Pick any verse. Is that a real thing? I might want to check that out. That would be funny. Y'all make my ISD trips way more interesting. It's an ISD trip.
That's LSD.
Oh, LSD trips. Oh, yeah, that would be funny. I was talking about that. My one of my bunkmates in prison, probably the longest reigning bunkmate I had was Kane. That was probably 2 years. 2 years of my sentence were with Kane. I had Kane on a couple of live streams a couple of years ago, but yeah, when I got the bunk. He was a total pagan. He was the tattoo artist of the dorm. So there was just always doing tattoos at night and so on. It's like, they're always like doing drugs over there. I was like a cloud of smoke over there all the time. And I was thinking when they offered me the bunk, cause you start off on a top bunk and then as bottom bunks go on, you're on a list and so on. And then they offer you a bottom bunk. If you don't want the bottom bunk, you can stay where you're at. And I like the cube I was in. I got along well with everyone. We're all cool. Do you want this bottom bunk over here? And you could say no, and then your name goes to the bottom of the list, and then you'll get an offer for a bottom bunk later. Anyway, went over there, and this is the drug capital of the dorm, the tattoo capital of the dorm. I was like, I don't want to go over there. I was like, wait a minute, what if God has given me an opportunity to go over there and talk to these guys and witness these guys and stuff? So, all right, I'll take it. So I go into Pagan Central, but I would sit there just reading the Bible. All this stuff's going on. I make sure I was just sitting there reading the Bible all day and stuff like that. And I keep this cup of water. And anyway, Kane would start talking to me. He'd go, hey, you should take some acid while you're reading that Bible. You'll start understanding it better. And I'll be like, no, I'm fine, dude. I'm fine just reading. It's like, no, the words will come off the page. You'll understand them like you've never understood it before. I was like, no, thanks. He goes, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to go ahead and slip some into your water one day when you're not looking. You're going to thank me later because you're going to understand the Bible. And I'm like, dude, if I ever start feeling freaking weird after taking a sip of water, it's on. It's on right now. We're going to be fighting all over this dorm, so don't freaking screw with me like that, right? That's where I was drawing the line. Anyway, that's a guy I mentioned him a little while back that he had all these like Nazi tattoos and stuff on him, and he became a Christian and got those tattoos removed and so on. But yeah, I've never been on any sort of LSD, acid, any of that type of stuff. But
it would be funny if you thought maybe God has something in store for me. Maybe there's a purpose, and then you actually go there, and then you start going on drugs.
Yeah. I get all messed up, and then and I become a total pagan. You see. Stefan the Pelton said, that's why I don't listen to JP. A waste of time. No, this is good stuff, man. You are in real time getting to see an extremely intelligent person wrestle with these issues from the perspective of psychology and human psychological well-being. I think it's very interesting.
I do wonder how you would fare on psychedelic drugs. It's an interesting mix to think of.
Yep, that would be fun. We could always try it for an experiment one day and see what happens. I have nothing to say. Just thought it would be rude not to type something. That's all. That's true.
Based.
That's a good point. Let's see, brother. I have gout. What gout, man? That's good. David and AP, love you guys so much. I'm glad someone does because there are lots of people who are mean to us. JP said embodiment. The narrative is actual. Well, no, because even embodiment can be ambiguous, right? Embodiment is actually body, talking about a physical body and so on. But embodiment, you can say this is the embodiment of that or something like that. I think he uses those words sort of in an ambiguous way where you can interpret it either way. He's fine with that.
The embodiment of I don't know, virtue or something like that, which doesn't necessarily have to mean anything.
Yeah, that's true. But you're right. It's good he's going in that direction and talking like that. That's good. Thank you, Jeremy Hunter.
That's what they do.
AP's main focus today was to educate people where the Baphomet comes from. By the way, AP, do you know Irfan's intros for his topics like Achtung, Gehirnzellen, Jihad? What is that word?
Jihad. That's how you spell jihad in German.
What? That's how you spell jihad? I never knew that.
Yeah. No. Oh, wait. No, he made a mistake. There should be he put a J there. There should be an H. But yeah, it's jihad.
What a stupid way to spell jihad.
Well, because in German, to make the sh sound, you put SCH, so it becomes a giant mess. And there's no way to put a J in German, so you have to add a D at the beginning, and that's what you end up with.
This is why it's good that the Germans lost, everyone. It's good that the Germans lost. AP and IP did a great interview.
Powerful.
Is that true?
Thank you. Yes.
Let's see.
It was powerful.
JP can separate the incarnation. JP can separate the incarnation from Platonism. That's been the game the entire time. Yeah, Platonism would have a concept of the highest good, goodness itself. You have people, so that would kind of be the God for Plato, the good, goodness itself, the form of the good. But the form of the good, or goodness itself, is not something that does anything. So it is an abstract. It is an abstract thing. And so got to make the distinction. Tacitus, Houston, we have a problem. What? On Josephus, don't forget that he also described the drama around John the Baptist getting whacked. And Josephus also mentions Jesus' brother James and so on. Oh, you actually mentioned that. Josephus also does what Paul did, does a disinterested reference to Christ, i.e. James, the brother of Christ. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he talks about the death of James. Hey, AP, please read more jokes from your jokes book.
I shall.
He shall. The John the Baptist, the disinterested Jesus and James reference, and the embellished reference to Christ in Josephus are three separate references. Yeah, so you have John the Baptist and Josephus. You have the reference to James, and you have the reference to Christ. And so the reference to Christ is one of the three most relevant passages. And the question is whether that passage is embellished. And again, you do have the minority position is that he just doesn't mention Jesus there. That's the minority position. Most people think there is a mention of Jesus, and then the question is, was this embellished by a later Christian scribe, or did Josephus say that? I've seen people, actual scholars, who think Josephus was significantly more Christian friendly than others of his time would have been, and therefore that he is actually saying these things. But at the end of the day, I don't know, and I'm not a Josephus scholar, so. Edward Nigma says, was asking about extra-biblical corroboration as per history, wasn't talking about validation of earlier docs, which is historicity and theological premise. No, what you were saying is it suspicious that they don't mention the resurrection? Well, Josephus, in what we actually has, does mention the resurrection. It's a question of whether that's embellished. But if they didn't, no, it's not. It would make perfect sense for Tacitus to refer to Jesus as someone crucified without going into detail on what Christians believe about Jesus. So I'm saying you can't draw much of conclusions based on what people don't mention. You can sometimes base conclusions on what people don't mention, but you have to say, okay, here's why. If he had known about this, he definitely would have mentioned this. And if it were true, he would have. So you have to, there are two leaps. You have to say, one, if this had happened, this person in a different part of the world would have known about that. And two, if he had known about that, that would have been something he wanted to report. You don't have much of a reason for thinking either one of those things, and therefore it doesn't tell you a lot about what actually happened. Alyosha says, the problem with LSD is realizing that if we F up this reality, what's the good of another one? Yeah, what's another reality going to do?
Hey, knock, knock.
Hang on. German authorities en route to your location.
Based.
For what you said. All right, go ahead with your awesome joke.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Woo.
Woo-hoo. Woohoo!
Don't get all excited now.
Awesome. Awesome joke. Are these all knock-knock jokes, or are they just all epically terrible jokes?
These are horrible knock-knock jokes. I don't know. I forgot the story behind this. I guess my wife got this for one of the kids, or it was somewhere, or somebody got this, and then she was like, here. If you have nothing to say, just read some knock-knock jokes.
Nice.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
All right. Thanks, Alyosha, for warning us about the Germans. We will be prepared for their invasion. All right. We're going to be live on your channel tomorrow, right?
Of course we're going to be live on my channel.
You have an idea what we're talking about yet? Or have you not narrowed that down yet?
Do I? I don't have an idea yet. There are different options. Still thinking about it.
There are multiple options. One, if you do not come up with a super dope option by tomorrow, one option is the Andrew Tate stuff, because you had a bunch of stuff about that. You had Ben Shapiro commenting on Andrew Tate. You had Tate blasting back at Ben Shapiro. You had everyone flipping out because there was the fallout after he was on the Benny Johnson thing, which we did cover, but there was a bunch of stuff that happened after that. So if you have something cooler than that, and we have plenty of things we can talk about, if you have something doper than that, we can do that. If not, Just an idea there. Pretty easy to take up some of the back and forth between Tate and so on, because it's about to be too late to talk about Tate, because in the very near future he's going to go to prison for a long, long time. We probably won't be saying much about him except for when he's taken out and has to face charges elsewhere or something.
They'll be based. I hope he goes to prison forever.
That's what
Thank you. But yeah, so I don't really want to talk about Tate, but
wait, one second. One second. I just want to point out, as far as what we want, I want Tate to go to prison. And this, keep in mind, this is not, I'm not even thinking just in terms of justice for victims or so on, or showing the world that this isn't a guy people should be imitating. I mean, even for him, if he is ever going to actually change his course. For narcissists and professional manipulators, and that's what he is. Every step of the way he's been a manipulator. He's been an extreme manipulator. You get everyone else to do what you want, and this is the best way to get what you want. That's the mind of a manipulator. You can't change a manipulator by saying, hey, don't manipulate, it's wrong. You'll never in a million years change a manipulator like that. The way you change a manipulator is he has to learn that manipulation ultimately fails, and that it ultimately does not get you what you want, and it actually leaves you in shambles. That is the only way you're going to change a manipulator. That's exactly what would happen. So in other words, it's good for him. Dirtbag scumbag that he is. I've been a dirtbag scumbag too. And so I say from experience, the best thing that could happen to Andrew Tate, is for him to get a 10 or 15 year sentence, to go to a horrible place and to be sitting in a crap cell, staring at the ceiling and thinking deeply about his life and his choices and his methods of dealing with things, and to realize where all of that led him, so that he sits back and says, you know what, this is where everything led. Maybe I need to rethink everything, including the way I deal with problems, what I believe about ultimate reality, what I believe about right and wrong. Only hope ever for him. And so I hope he goes to prison, stares at a ceiling long enough to realize what a freaking scumbag he has been. With that said, whatever happens to him, whether he realizes how stupid and what a scumbag he's been, whether he realizes that or not, for the good of humanity and the victims and everyone else, I hope he goes to prison.
I think it would be very, 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 very difficult for him to change.
It is. Yeah. By the way, that's my point. It has your entire world. I'm saying this from experience. Your world has to come crashing to the ground, leaving you in a really, really bad place before you are willing. If you're a narcissist and you're the center of all reality, you have to be in a position where you're like garbage of the world and everyone recognizes it. And then you think, maybe I'm not what I thought I was. Maybe I'm not that great. Maybe I can't always outsmart everyone.
Here's the thing. You're thinking that he will go there and he will actually have he will start thinking differently. He will have time. I'm
not saying that. I'm saying that is the only hope. That's the only possible way it's going to happen.
The issue
him beating these charges would be the absolute worst thing ever for him, because it would only confirm that he is all this and stuff. But anyway, sorry to interrupt. Just want to clarify.
The problem is that the way it seems, it looks to me that even if he goes to prison, he will maintain an online presence and will consistently and constantly have people post on his behalf online. He will always be there. He will always try to keep up his persona. He will not reflect. He will not decide that maybe it's time to be a better person. He tries to go for the one option, which is why he repeatedly, even in his interview with that one sycophant, Benny Johnson, even there he said, he repeated, while claiming just the day before, oh yeah, I'm going to beat the charges, I'm going to walk freely. He went on there and he said, well, I know that they will eventually put me in a prison cell and they will try to kill me. He keeps going for that. So he might as well just not make it if he goes to prison, which is understandable, given that his whole shenanigans that he pulls in public will probably don't work in there. But I don't know how this is going to work out.
That's the other thing. The game that he uses on these young idiots,
it's not going to work.
That does not work. Everyone there, they've seen every kind of game, every little quick manipulation tactic that you're going to try and use. They've all been using those tactics for years to get what they want. It is not going to work. So,
yeah, when I was in prison, I experienced that as well. I'm just pretending to be you.
Yeah. No, as far as you are correct in that he's going to, it looks like he will continue doing the same thing because that's what he did the entire time he was in jail. I'm saying we don't know what sort of access he's going to have to things. I did look at that was jail. This will be prison. I don't know what sort of access he'll have to social media and so on from prison. We don't know what prison he'll be in. We don't know what the situation. Prisons in Romania, pretty terrible. If I had to guess, is he going to go there and change his ways? I would guess not. But I do know from experience, some people do. They get a dose of reality. Hey, wait a minute. I thought I could always outsmart everyone, that my manipulation techniques would always help me to overpower everyone. I could get past everything. And a lot of times he's been able to do that. And you eventually have to come crashing to the ground. And that is your only hope. And again, I'm saying that from experience. After I became a Christian, it was a couple of years after I became a Christian, I wrote letters to everyone that I'd been a dirtbag to and so on before I got locked up. I wrote one girl, she was a Catholic girl, and she wrote me back and said, I used to pray for you that you would actually like change. And she says, and eventually I stopped praying for you because I said, this is a waste of time. There's nothing more I could be wasting my time. I could not waste my time more than praying for this guy. And so there are people who do seem completely hopeless to other people. Anyway, a couple of final super chats that came up. Tate is an outstanding example of whatever he is. That'd be funny to put somewhere. Andrew Tate, an outstanding example of whatever he is. T. Turbine said Josephus would have asked some Christian.
The thing is also he's terrified of going to prison, and you can see that quite often. You can even see this from when he sometimes describes his time in jail. When he was in jail, he said he was back and forth pacing. He was constantly on edge, thinking, "We have to get out of here. We have to get out of here. We have to get out of here." While his brother was just like, "Whatever, man." So his brother was probably going to take it, while he is terrified of going to prison. He really seems scared of going to prison because he knows that his whole thing that he's doing out there, it will not work very well in prison. So that's what it looks like. But I hope so. He deserves the justice. He deserves to go to prison. He deserves to serve time. He deserves to be far, far away from other people, or from innocent people. And yeah, I hope that happens. Maybe we will talk about this. Maybe we will see. Maybe we will have another look at the Andrew Tata stuff that is going on right now.
You are correct about the difference between Andrew and Tristan. That Andrew, whatever he says, however he thumps his chest, he does not want to go to prison. It's basically destroying your idea of yourself as the greatest mind in the world who can always get what he wants and so on. For Tristan, psychopaths don't like that either. Just being defeated, because they also rely on manipulation. The difference is psychopaths aren't scared of stuff. So that's why he will be much calmer in that situation. And he will... That's the rough part, is Tristan will actually be able to keep up whatever he is, possibly more successfully than Andrew. It will be more traumatic of an experience to Andrew. And so hopefully the best case scenario for the Tate brothers is Andrew has some eventual breakthrough in prison after he realizes the stuff doesn't work. And that's actually why it sucks. If he were completely isolated from keeping up the charade, it would be better for him. It's actually worse for him if he still has social media and can still be running his mouth. Oh, the Matrix got me, but I'm going to get out in 15 years and then I will show the world and stuff. It sucks if he gets to keep this up for a long time. So all you Tate fans, the best thing you can do is to not let him manipulate you. That is the best for him. If you actually care about him, stop letting him get away with his nonsense.
We have the same view of those two guys, like many others also do. So that it seems that Tristan Tate seems quite unfazed by whatever is happening, because he seems to have an antisocial personality disorder, while Andrew Tate doesn't have that, which is bad for him under these circumstances. He seems quite fragile, and he is narcissistic, but he's not a psychopath, and which is why he will have trouble. There was a video from a long time ago, which is one that rarely comes up, but where you can see Tristan, because some guys in the front of a hotel or so start talking trash, or won't get out of the way, or won't do whatever he says. He just walks to the guy and starts brutally beating him up, like Tristan. This is the kind of guy he is. This is what he is. He's also the one who's reported to severely abuse the women that work for them, or to just give instructions to just beat them up and throw their things out and so on. Like Andrew Tate will do this whole thing, like, I'm going to have sex with you, and while we're having sex, I'm going to beat you and all that. Tristan is not like that. To him, it's just without any motive or emotion or anything. Just if you mess me through, I will just beat you up. That's it. Two different people, and two very messed up people, and I hope they go to prison.
And it's interesting how all this connected. Their dad was actually discharged from whatever CIA or whatever he was in, or something like that. He was in an intelligence agency. He was discharged because he was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. They realized they were dealing with a guy with a serious problem, and then he has his sons, and one of them clearly a narcissist, one of them clearly a psychopath. The psychopath will not want to go to prison. He will not want his manipulation. Both of those guys use manipulation. Psychopath, like the narcissist, would not like his methods to fail. But with that said, he will not be scared of prison. He will actually think prison is kind of fun. It's psychologically stimulating environment for a psychopath. And I'm saying that, like, guys, do I want to go to prison? No. Would it be fun to go to prison? There are times when things are going on. It's like, I just want to go to prison. If I didn't have a family, I'd want to go to prison, because it's like it's a different kind of life, and it's actually fun. Tristan will be fine. Andrew will have to see. Teacher,
Andrew will say, why don't Christians send me letters?
Yeah,
that's what he will.
And along the lines of what I was saying, the best case scenario, ultimate best case scenario: one, they go to prison, justice is served, their money that they've accumulated is distributed to the victims and used for other things and so on, as a restitution. So any fines or something like that. They go to prison. Andrew is traumatized and broken from all of everything he knows about how to get along in the world, all of that coming crumbling to the ground and him being horribly exposed. Tristan, he'll be fine, but Andrew ultimately has a change of mind and a change of heart and a change of perspective. And then, since he is a big influence to his brother adapts. Is that going to happen? Probably, almost certainly not, but that would be the ideal situation for those guys. So all of you idiots hoping that they beat all these charges and stuff, what you're saying is, we hope they become greater monsters than they are, and that their belief that they can do whatever they want and that there are no consequences for them ever, which is their downfall, that you want to actually confirm that. Yeah, you can always get away with it. You can always outsmart it. You can horribly abuse people and always get away with it because idiots will defend you. That's bad. That's bad for them. T Turbine says, Josephus would have asked some Christians to tell him about Jesus, and Josephus used their terminology. He didn't footnote it because his contemporary readers would have realized this. That is one possibility. That is one of the reasons there are people who think that the entire thing is authentic and that it hasn't been embellished. If Tate is the answer, we need to formulate the question. Yeah. It was Roddy Piper one day. Just when they thought they had the answers, I changed the questions. I always love that. But if Tate is the answer, we need to formulate the question. Reformulate the question. I'm a moron for the typo. You're good. And Tate monetized running his mouth. You can tell. Yeah. Why not? Edward Nigma says, appreciate you, David. You saved me from moo-moo indoctrination in my early days. God bless from UK. Speaker's Corner was legendary. Yeah. No, that's all funny. And thanks for that. And maybe we'll be at Speaker's Corner again this year. We'll see what happens. I heard that prisoners getting out sometimes freak out and feel a strong need to do something to get locked up again. Did you ever get that? No, and they call that being institutionalized. They call it being institutionalized. After you've been locked up long enough, you have a problem living any other way. And so they let guys out and they end up back in prison really quickly. And in the extreme cases, they realize they just can't function on the outside. No, I didn't get like that, but no fear of prison. I know right now if I got locked up and went to prison, as soon as I go in, I'm going to see guys I knew from when I was locked up before and stuff. You realize there's nothing to be concerned about if you know how to get along in prison and so on. I wasn't institutionalized, but I was. There's a degree of it that you learn to be comfortable. It's like living in a trailer park. You know, I grew up in a trailer park. I would have no problem living in it. I mean, I have kids. It wouldn't kind of fit in a trailer now. But if I were just by myself and I went and lived in a trailer, I'm used to that. It's normal for me. So it's kind of, you're used to it. You could get along with it, but not enough to where, hey, I can't function. I need to go get locked up again. All right, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for joining. We'll be back on AP's channel tomorrow. And I'll probably, I might go ahead and make that little clip I was talking about with combining the, how about no, I don't buy your Allah. And then Jesus is God. Yeah, I think he is. That'd be funny. Funny.
Do it.
All right, guys. Catch you all tomorrow.
Do it.